Welcome to the Horror Hangout, a podcast where film fans watch the best and worst horror movies of all time and talk about them. My name is Ben Errington, and I'm joined by regular co-host, Mr.
Andy Conduit Turner. Hello, Ben.
Hello, Andy. Hello. There's four of us today, which is very, very exciting because we're joined by two very special guests. Returning guest, Aaron Truss, who obviously joined us for one of the Fright Fest episodes, interviews recently, talking about Cult of VHS. He's an award-winning director and producer. He studied at Thames Valley University in London, spent over a decade working in post-production, creating original content for IMAX and Sony Pictures. Best known for the Rob Knox Story and Cult of VHS, which had its premiere at Fright Fest just last month. And Kevin Martin is the owner of the Lobby DVD Shop, an actor in straight-to-video web series, the co-founder of Dead Fest Film Festival, and the star of the upcoming The Last Video Store movie. Welcome to the show, Aaron and Kevin.
Hey guys.
Yeah, hey guys.
Hello. If you're watching on video as well, if you're watching on YouTube, you will also notice that Kev is in the video store right now, and Night of the Creeps is playing on a screen behind him. Can you believe it? Get well and truly in the mood. No customers, or have you just locked them out, Kevin?
I've locked them out, my friend. So if you hear occasional banging on the door and I got to scoot over, it's business, but I'll be right back.
It's just creeps. It's just creeps at the door. If someone smashes the door in, a little worm jumps into your mouth.
Masking tape, everything open. Yeah, oven's on. Yeah.
Wow, it looks absolutely. I mean, it looks absolutely amazing. Like I can't quite. I mean, is Night of the Creeps on VHS? Is what you're watching it?
I wish. You know how much a Night of the Creeps VHS tapes go for these days. I mean, they're tough to come. At least in our country, they're tough to come around. No, sadly, I'm going more modern with the DVD, but yeah, I did have it on VHS as a kid, but it's the one perk about being in my 40s, that era of the 80s and having all the VHS tapes. I had them all, and then somewhere in the mid 90s, you made the big mistake of like, I don't need these tapes anymore. We're moving on, and no one, nobody would buy them. And now, of course, here we are, 2022, and I could have retired off of my boxes of VHS tapes that I had as a child. My God.
That's the wild thing about these collectibles, isn't it? Because for things to become valuable and collectible, they almost have to have a period of being worth nothing. The fact that comics are very expensive because they had a period of time where they were basically chip wrappers. You would read a comic and screw it up and put it in your pocket versus
vinyl in the 90s. Yeah. Vinyl in the 90s was going for pennies. Nobody wanted it, right? I mean, and now look at vinyl collectors. Whew, that is an addiction that I cannot afford.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. So obviously, Aaron, obviously you were the producer of Cult of VHS, and Kev, you're also involved in that. How did you get involved in Cult of VHS, Kev?
It's funny. Somebody, one of my customers here in Edmonton, Canada, joined the Kickstarter fundraiser. And told Rob down in Mexico City about, I live in this city. We have a video store still. And then Rob, I guess, had seen our short films at some film festival in LA or Mexico. And he put two and two together. And he's like, wait, is that the same video store that did that short film, The Last Video Store, and Amos Mega Tape and Straight to Video? And she's like, yeah, like, I need to get a hold of that dude. So he reached out to me like during the height of the pandemic in 2020. And he's like, I'd love to have you involved in this doc. Do you have somebody that can film you? And I'm like, I got nothing better to do. Business is closed at the moment. So, so I just brought one of my film buddies in, and Rob sent me a few questions, and we set the camera up like, okay, get a good angle of the shop. We want to make sure we're included in this documentary. And then I just kind of riffed a bunch of shit. And I'm like, well, maybe he'll use some of it. And I'll tell you, true story. So when I got to see the screener, I was filming the movie earlier this spring. So I'm like, I finished filming all day. I'm like, okay, I'm going to watch Cult of VHS now. And we're about 45 minutes into the doc. And I'm like, I guess they didn't use any of my footage because I don't show up until like, I think the 46th or 7th minute. And I'm like, hey, there I am. Maybe they used like 2 minutes of me. And then I felt like the next 15 to 20 minutes, like, oh shit, they used everything we filmed basically, or pretty close to it. So I felt touched and blessed, man. Represent Canada and all that jazz and video store love. But yeah,
He saved,
that's all I got.
saved you for the second act.
Absolutely.
Kept everybody hooked. And obviously, Cult of VHS did have its premiere. Last time we spoke, Aaron, was prior to it being shown at Fright Fest. So,
Oh, really? Wow. Okay. So this is
that is
interesting.
when we spoke.
Yeah.
I think it was only a few days before.
It must have been. Yeah.
So, how did that go? How was seeing it up on the big screen and seeing everybody?
It was a very strange experience watching it. I mean, I wish we could have just bundled everyone into a private jet who was in Cult of VHS and watched it with those guys, including Kevin. And the response was amazing. Kevin was a huge favorite, especially amongst all the press that we were receiving, and a lot of people who were there, were either saying, "Oh, Kevin was absolutely fantastic," or Jordi Camacho, who's the how best to describe him? He's the fitness video enthusiast, and that's as far as I'll go without spoiling it too much. But yeah, he got a laugh every time that he was on screen. I was also fortunate enough to sit next to Jake West from the Video Nasties documentary, and I always tell this story wrong. And I said that I thought he was looking to get into Cult of VHS. Turns out the poor guy was trying to get into another film. I managed to catch him, and I said, "Do you want to come in with me? I've got a spare ticket." And he was pretty much my date, sitting next to me all the way through the film, nudging me, going, "Oh, that's great, man. That's great. Yeah, I like what you did. Oh, yep. And at the end of it, he just turned around to me and just said, "You did a really fantastic job," to Rob and I. And I was just like, "Oh man, just getting Jake West's approval was everything we could have wanted." And oddly enough, we got a bit hammered, and it turns out he lives 5 minutes from me round the corner in Bromley. And, so he's my neighbor. And we went out the other night on the Lash till about, I don't know what time, but I remember just us drunkenly walking home doing impressions of Angus Scrim screaming "boy" down the neighborhood, pissing everyone off at like 1 a.m. just "boy." It was brilliant. So
That's
yeah,
amazing.
we made a lot of good friends, and we made a lot of good impressions, from everyone. And the guys who run Fright Fest, they're just the absolute best. They just, they looked after us. They treated the film with respect, and they even got a little copy of Cult of VHS on VHS. It's the real deal, my friends.
Look at that,
Kevin. Don't worry, we'll sort you out with one. We're trying to get a deal at the moment where we actually can get a limited VHS run, which I don't know who would want that. But then we also have these, which Rob put together for the backers. That's the little sleeve.
Look at that.
And then got the Blu-ray underneath. So
That looks amazing.
yeah,
Kev's on the front as well, right?
Kev's on the front.
Are you both on the front? Are you on the front as well?
Yeah, so you got Kev right here,
Yeah.
and then you got Elton John right there. So they had to get all my chins in. So I don't have that many chins, which I'm, whatever. But hey,
Someone
it's on Blu-ray.
chins on. That's not fair.
Yeah, it kind of feels like they added chins. I don't know why you would do that. I don't know. Maybe I pissed Rob off or something that day, and he was just like, "More chin" or something. More chin. That's the name of my next film, More Chin. So yeah,
like sort of digital body horror, just additional chins.
Yeah, all takes place on a chin.
Yeah. Okay.
That's all I'm saying.
I mean,
Story of Bruce Campbell. It works. Good things. And actually, real quick, I do know a company that could put those on VHS for you here in North America, because they did the exact same. They did the same thing for. Oh God, sorry, guys. I'm just gonna. It's like show and tell in my store. I don't know if you can see this, but so this is the Last Video Store collection of our short films, and this is a company called Videonomicon here in Canada, and they did a limited release of about 100 of these, and they all sold out. Like, this is the last one I keep for the shop, but because there is quite the VHS culture, doesn't matter where you are in the world. But so yeah, we'll talk here. We'll talk.
So you're making the Last Video Store feature-length movie as well? Yes, and it's not principal photography is not finished, is it?
Principal photography is done. We're actually in post-production. In fact, the film has to be completely done to submit to the film festival circuit by the end of October. So it's crunch time now.
Wow.
One more scene to film. I got to fly out to Vancouver to team up with an old friend of ours who's been a guest at our film festival quite a few times when we did have our film festival called Dead Fest. His name is Jeremy Gardner. He's from Florida. He's a actor in a bunch of independent horror movies. You may or may not have heard of them. The Battery, Spring, Mind's Eye. Anyways, one of the nicest guys ever. And when we first tried to film the movie in 2014 and we realized you can't shoot a feature movie for $15,000, we felt bad we couldn't use any of the footage. So we're going to try again 8 years later and get him in this damn movie. So
Nice.
it's been quite the collaboration and almost across Canada process. I don't know how well versed you guys are in Canadian independent genre movies, but we also have the involvement of our good friends, Astron 6. Now they're responsible for making movies like Father's Day, Manborg, The Editor, The Void, Psycho Gorman. They're all going to have cameos in our film as well. And we just got permission to use our good friends at RKSS. They're the guys that made Turbo Kid, Summer of '84. We're using one of their short films because they're a fan of our stuff too. So we have all these movies within the movie kind of stuff we got to squeeze in there. So yeah, but
I love Turbo Kid. Such a great film.
Good, yeah. Turbo Kid's a lot of fun. People that haven't seen it, I'm like, it's Mad Max on BMX, basically,
Yeah,
Michael
that's
Ironside.
essentially Michael Ironside as well, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, great
We
film.
really loved Psycho Gorman as well. You mentioned.
I think Psycho Gorman, I think now, because the last 2 years have blurred into one, I couldn't tell you whether it was 2020, 2021, but it was definitely my film of the year for whatever year that was.
Oh, absolutely love it. So Steve Costanzi, the director, he was like, when we showed their first movie at our fest 10, 12 years ago, Father's Day, we invited them all down. And the great thing about those guys are super film nerds and they're video store nerds. They just hung out in my shop for like the entire day they were in town. They didn't want to leave, actually. So I'm like, what, do you guys want to go to the pub or something? Like, no, let's just go back to your store, man. Some beers and we'll hang out there. And like,
can we spend the night, please?
It's crazy, man. Like, because of doing a fest, we've had, I've had guests in, like Danielle Harris was a guest of ours from the Halloween movie. She wanted to see the store. Henry Rollins was a guest of ours when we showed He Never Died.
Oh my
he wanted
God.
to see the store. My favorite was, some directors aren't well known, obviously, at our fest when we show them, but then they blow up. And one of my favorite guests was a director from Mexico. Her name is Isa Lopez, and she did Tigers Are Not Afraid in 2017, which is amazing. And now she's writing and directing season 4 of True Detective with Jodie Foster. So, but anyways, the story with her is we got fucking drunk here till like 6 a.m, and she kept trying to steal my Phantom of the Paradise helmet, which is behind me, because she adores that movie. I'm like, no, Issa, you cannot have it unless you give me a box full of your movie autograph later down the road. But it never came to be. But I tell you, the video store is magical.
Yeah. And that's the thing as well, especially, the genre that we're all fans of, the horror genre. I think it probably breeds some of the biggest fans of cinema and the type of cinema that you can only really find at a video store. I think for all of the wonders of digital distribution and what it means to be able to get those things, there is something very special about having that physical space. Certainly some of my fondest memories at a video store in Tamworth where I grew up, going in there and looking at things that I definitely wasn't old enough to see. The covers themselves terrified me, but there was this intense fascination with them. And then as you got a little older, you'd be brave enough to pick some of these up. I think still to this day, and it's you've already mentioned him, Bruce Campbell. One of my favorite horror movies as a kid, Moontrap, with Bruce Campbell in it, which I'd convinced myself in my 6-7-year-old brain was a prequel to War of the Worlds, and I linked those two things together. Madness. I'm still pressuring Ben to do a Moontrap episode. One day we'll get around to it.
Wasn't Chekhov from Star Trek in that movie too? Walter, I think he was the other co-star. Yeah. Funny enough, I'm staring at Moontrap. It's right over there in my letter M section. Like, it's, the thing, like the other thing, Andy, about I don't know how your video store was, but I know when I was a kid in the 80s, what made the horror movie section so appealing was usually it would have been like kind of cornered off like the porno section where you got to go through these creepy saloon doors and it was all red lit and shit. And like, you're right. You see the covers like Maniac or Driller Killer and you're like, do I dare touch it? But you know, because the covers were enough to sell the product. And that's like you mentioned earlier with the whole streaming world. I actually feel bad for the younger generation when it comes to them wanting to love movies and get into it. And I get a lot of them because our local university is right beside my shop. These kids there's so much shit that they can watch. They're overwhelmed with the senses of all these streaming sites. They need an algorithm, a proper guide still. So I just consider myself the video store algorithm. Like I will point you in the right direction, my friends, because the real key is if you get a couple coming into my store and they're perusing and touching the covers and shit, and they're looking at it. And let's say they pick 3 movies the weekend. It doesn't matter what they pick. They could have picked the worst fucking movie ever made, but they will watch them before returning them because they went through the trouble of coming here. Yeah. As opposed to if you're on a streaming site and you're flipping and you're like, hey, this looks interesting. You hit click, 10 minutes in, like, meh, I'll get back to it. You'll never get back to it.
Oh, 10 minutes is sometimes generous. I've started a thing on Netflix and been like, they've made a really poor font choice on this on these credits. Maybe not. Maybe I'll look for something else because it is you don't have that same investment when your investment in choosing it was sometimes not even a click, right? You hover over something long enough and it'll start playing it for you. The very fact, as you say, the fact that you've gone in and you've agonized over, I have a finite choice here. And again, going back to when you're a kid, you know, you're there with your parents or whoever, and it's like, right, you're allowed to choose 1-2 movies this week, and this is your movie that you're getting. You invest so much in that choice, and then when you get to it as well, you it doesn't matter if you're kind of watching it. Either you'll convince yourself, no, I'm sticking with this, or you know, you'll really get through to the end of something. You don't give up. You watch it all. I don't think I ever returned in all my years anything ever got returned without being watched.
It's the old mindset. Like it'll get better. It'll get better. The ending will pay off, and then it ends. You're like, well, you know, at least I watched it. I mean, it didn't get better, but
yeah,
at least
I've completed that. I've done that.
Yeah,
because also, how many films have you seen where like the final 10 minutes are that good? Where you're like, I didn't really enjoy the rest of it, but those final 10 minutes were totally worth it. If I'd have seen those final 10 minutes isolated, maybe I wouldn't have enjoyed it as much as I did. Kind of waiting, anticipating.
I tell you what, Ben, the thing that really got me on that exact example, I watched, it was the first watch for me. I ended up recommending it to you. I had not seen it until I stumbled across it. I watched Prophecy, and it begins very, very differently. And then that little boy gets woken up by that mutant bear and gets punched into atoms by him. And then it's a roller coaster right to the end. And it, you know, those things that perhaps, again, maybe you wouldn't have got that far unless you were invested in that film, if you knew nothing about it. I mean, so many films which are, by some people's measures, the critics, objectively bad. Some of my favorites, like Sleepaway Camp, probably still one of my favorite slashers to this day.
I love part 2 of Sleep. I think part 2 of Sleepaway Camp is the best of the series. I just think it's absolutely ridiculous how it seems to be the movie of famous people's siblings starring in it. Because obviously Angela in Sleepaway Camp 2 and 3, that's Bruce Springsteen's sister, Pamela Springsteen. And the final girl is the sister of Charlie Sheen, Emilio Estevez. And the final girl in Sleepaway Camp 3 is the sister of Melody Griffith. I'm like, what? Did they just hire these people on last name basis? But hey, why not?
Have you got any famous
series?
Have you got any famous siblings? No, get out.
Yeah, I was going to bring up the point, you know, how you were talking about, the whole movie sucked until the last 10 minutes and I made up for it. That is much better than the reverse, where the movie starts off with a bang. You're like, this is going to be the best fucking thing ever. A movie that comes to mind was Ghost Ship. You remember the opening scene of Ghost Ship?
Yeah.
Everyone
Great
gets sliced by the wires. Like, oh my God, this is going to be brilliant. And you're just like, damn it, they gave up the money shot. It's like watching a porn in reverse, you know? The money shot first, and then we got to deal with the rest of it backwards. It's a bad memento.
And they actually fix the plumbing for the next 20 minutes.
Or eat the pizza.
Yes.
Oh, it turns out I do have change. Here you go.
Okay, I'll try. let's try and move on to some horror news now, just to make sure we do end up talking about Night of the Creeps, because otherwise we're just going to be chatting shit all night, which is
reminiscent about the halcyon days of horror.
I'm enjoying myself. Okay, so in horror news, the first thing is that there's a Hellraiser trailer for the brand new Hellraiser movie, which premieres on Hulu on October the 7th. Me and Andy have just done a reaction video, so that will be available on YouTube probably now if you listen to this podcast. Don't know, Aaron and Kev, have you seen the trailer?
Yep.
Did you watch it?
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, it looks good.
Big Hellraiser fans going in?
Yeah. I mean, well, go on, Kev.
Oh, no. No. All right, I'll be quick. When it comes to Hellraiser, I mean, 1 and 2, fantastic. Everything after that, not so much. And I'm old enough. I did see the last Hellraiser that went to theaters, Bloodline, the space one. I saw that in the theater. I'm like, well, this is probably the end of this franchise. And then after that, let's be honest, guys, from part 5 to 8, if you can even remember any of them, you can tell those were scripts that were written for a totally different movie. And they were just like, fuck it, let's throw Pinhead in for 5 minutes. We'll call it Hellraiser Inferno or Hellraiser whatever. So now they're claiming this movie is not a reboot. It does take place in the same universe as the Clive Barker Hellraiser 1 and 2. I don't know how they're exactly going to work that in, but I think the trailer looks great. And again, the most important thing, you don't exactly have a high bar to get past, because Hellraiser has basically been done for me since after the end of part 2. So this could be the third best one, boys, I think.
I didn't realize it was set in the same sort of continuity as 1 and 2, but that's interesting. Now that was the last one that Clive Barker was involved in, number 2.
His name was on the credits for number 3. The only thing I remember about number 3 is CD Head and Motorhead had that sweet Hellraiser theme song in it.
Oh, yeah, with Ozzy.
Yeah, that's right. But you could just tell once they started filming in America, it just kind of went different, because Anthony Hickox directed Hellraiser 3. Of course, I love Waxwork and Waxwork 2. But I don't know. And then, of course, with Hellraiser Bloodline, that was originally directed by Kevin Yeager, the special effects artist, but he lost complete control of that property while he was filming, because it was Dimension Films and they always had to, fuck shit up behind the scenes, probably the Weinsteins. And so if you look at Hellraiser 4, it's actually directed by Alan Smithy. And of course, if you know the term directed by Alan Smithy, that just means the director has taken their hands off it and said, nah, this is not my movie anymore.
David Lynch did that with June, didn't he?
Yeah, I believe so. The funny thing is, though, nice, baby.
Signed by Andrew Robinson at Star Trek Con. I wasn't able to make it, and I knew Andrew Robinson was going. My girlfriend's a huge Star Trek fan, like me. I said, "Oh, could you just get an autograph? Take Hellraiser with you," and she bloody did, and he signed it as well. So I'm really happy with that one.
Oh,
fuck yeah! I'll always know Andrew Robinson as he was the first villain in the first ever Dirty Harry movie with Clint Eastwood.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
He always tends to play a prick.
Yeah, exactly. Well, have you watched Deep Space Nine?
So this one is directed by David Bruckner, who directed The Night House. I like The Night House and The Ritual as well. I think both of those were...
Ritual was fantastic.
Pretty good. Ritual was good. Great creature design as well. Okay, so it looks good. Jamie Clayton as Pinhead. I mean, the voice of Pinhead in this trailer was very effective, I thought.
Yeah.
I got high hopes for it. I mean, why not? I mean, they're rebooting everything at the moment. I mean, there was a series of like movies that started to get rebooted, like Friday 13th, Texas Chainsaw, and stuff like that. But now we seem to be having I mean, I don't know what you guys think of the Halloween films, but I've been quite impressed by them. I've been really enjoying them. And
for me, I think reboot good. I think my final feelings on Halloween Kills will be depending on how
Halloween ends.
Ending, yeah.
Jared, I've been talking about this a lot with my customers. Does anybody have a solid theory how this whole thing is going to end at the end of this movie? Any guesses? What
Probably
gives Michael's power?
If it ends on a cliffhanger or it ends on I just don't know.
If it turns out that Michael Myers is Paul Rudd, I mean, he hasn't made an appearance yet.
They're both going to die together, surely, right? Laurie.
Okay, gentlemen, here's my theory. It won't happen, but goddamn, I'd be fanboying the fuck out. All right. Now, they did say this is the last one. They're being realistic, though. They're like, look, there's going to be more Halloween movies, but this is the last one for this story. Because the Halloween franchise is so all over the place these days. I mean, it's like a choose your own adventure when you start from the 78 movie. You have choices which way you want to go now, right? So check it out. At the end of Halloween Kills, you know, when like they're whooping Michael's ass and shit, like, oh man, it's over, right? Then he gets up and kills her. You're like, what the absolute fuck? But what if a movie that finally deserves respect 40 years later that involved Tom Atkins himself? We find out that Michael's mask has the silver shamrock tag deep down inside. It was Colonel Cochrane and his evil dominions that gave Michael his power. Well, let's take it one step further. In the third act, when things look bad for Jamie Lee, fucking Tommy Atkins, 85 years old, comes strolling in with a shotgun. Together, take out Michael. They reignite their love from the fog, because remember, in the fog, they hooked up 10 minutes into that damn movie, and the movie ends with Tommy Atkins, Jamie Lee, chilling in bed. They hear a noise. Tommy Atkins looks out the window and says, hey, there's a fog bank rolling in. Boom! Carpenter universe. God. It's all there.
Oh, wow.
I will pick up my phone and I will add more stars to my Halloween Kills rating right now. If that
yeah. I mean,
that's like a horror fan's wet dream right there.
Yeah.
I mean,
literally was just
I'm
about
excited.
to say, like Conal Cochrane and the silver shamrock thing on the back of the mask, and it's like Tom Atkins chasing down that one last mask. You know, turn it off, and this is the last mask. That would have been awesome. It was Tom Atkins all along.
I'm loving it.
Finally, the official rehabilitation of Season of the Witch. Arguably, I would say it's definitely in my top half of the Halloween movies.
Yeah.
No, but then you get to change the journey as well. So you have to go Halloween 1, then 3, and then go to the Halloween Kills and Ends. So you get a new universe.
And anyone who ever complains about Season of the Witch not including Michael Myers can be like, well, clearly it does. Even though he is in the movie.
It was a 40-year-old strategic plan. You know, they waited 40 years to bring it all together.
Well, that guy's a warlock.
I know someone in the comment section is going to be like, yeah, but they showed Halloween the film in the bar, and it's like, yeah,
that was CCTV footage.
We live in a meta world, man. We live in a meta world.
Kev, I've got nothing to add to that. I don't even want to talk about my theories. I've got 0 notes. I've got nothing to add. I don't even want to talk about my theory because what's the point? That if it isn't that, I want my money back.
I only have one more theory that I guess is more grounded, realistic. You know, they're making it in Halloween Kills. They kept making a big deal out of Michael just standing and staring out the window. Like, what's he looking at? Now, again, at first I'm like, well, of course he's looking at the radio tower that's run by Colonel Cochrane's evil, like Silver Shamrock thing, and sending out the singles. But then I thought, who is the two characters in the Halloween universe that it's never mentioned what happens to them? And I did the math in my head, and I think they would still be alive. They'd be slightly older than my parents. What happened to Mr. and Mrs. Myers? Where are his parents? Okay. Maybe he's waiting for his parents to come home because they were real estate agents. They probably fucked off out of town after all that, you know, the shit happened where he killed his sister. We never found out. They never said they died of old age. They never said they moved to Florida. We don't know what happened to them. Maybe Michael's waiting for his parents to come home. I don't know. Just a thought.
Okay.
That's really sweet. That's quite cute and sad at the same time. I like it.
How much time is supposed to have elapsed between Halloween Kills and Halloween Ends as well? Is it like a year?
4 years.
4 years.
Really? I didn't know that.
What has he been doing?
Well, we got to give time for Jamie Lee's stomach wound to heal. I mean, I remember people were bitching with Halloween Kills going, she was barely in it. I'm like, have you ever been stabbed in the stomach and it takes place on the same night and you're in the hospital? What the hell are you going to do, man? I mean, that's like the only place.
You need a rest.
Yeah, you need a rest.
Halloween Kills is probably the first film I've seen in the cinema where I've actually jumped in a long time in a film. And it's that bit at the very beginning, spoiler, where the cops are at the house and he just sort of power walks out of nowhere and just knifes the police officer. And it was the flashback when he was remembering, and it was that sudden, whoa, shit, he just came out of nowhere, and it totally freaked you out because Michael's normally quite slow and whatever, but this was younger Michael, and I remember shitting my pants in the cinema thinking, yeah, you've got me now, I'm hooked. This is really good.
Is there going to be more flashback stuff?
I hope so.
Yeah,
I hope so. You know what? I know everybody loves Jamie Lee Curtis back, but growing up as a kid, I was a Dr. Loomis guy. I loved Donald Pleasance, and I cannot believe how they pulled off the actor's name is Tom Jones Sr. or Jr., and they put prosthetic makeup on him, and somebody else dubbed the voice. He looked uncanny.
Yeah.
I couldn't get over it. And it just made me think, I'm like, wait, can we do like a spin-off series now of like Sam Loomis in the 60s and 70s hunting down other killers in the Midwest, you know? Like I was rewatching Halloween 4 the other day, which is a guilty pleasure.
Oh my God,
Halloween 4. And that fucking scene where the old Reverend timer guy picks him up. He's like, oh, you're hunting that evil. You're chasing it, ain't you? He hands the whiskey. He goes, I could have watched an entire fucking movie of those two guys, grumpy old men meets X-Files, traveling the US and like hunting down other killers and shit. Would have been brilliant.
I mean, the wonders of technology these days. Why stop there? Like Dr. Loomis's boss could be Peter Cushing. He's on the phone sending him on missions.
Boom. As long as it's not Rogue One Peter Cushing, then we should be all right.
No, we've moved along now. We'll just get.
We moved along.
Yeah.
Okay. The only other piece of news I've got is that a Constantine sequel has officially been announced with Keanu Reeves returning. So yeah, 2005 was Constantine was released. I think fans have been asking for this for quite a while, but Reeves will reprise his role as supernatural exorcist and demonologist John Constantine. Yeah, I like the original. Why not? Let's get something. Obviously, the TV show was a bit doomed, wasn't it? The sort of, was it a CW TV show?
Yeah, if it isn't the highest rating show the second it comes out, then you're doomed to be cancelled on a cliffhanger, as is the fate of lots of TV shows, right?
Yeah, how's Annie?
It's funny how time has gone on, guys, because I remember when Constantine came out in 05, they got a lot of backlash because it wasn't like the comics. They're like, well, Constantine's not, he's first of all, he's British, he's not American. Secondly, he's blonde, he's not Keanu Reeves. And the movie was kind of shit on. And then I remember seeing this in the cinema and I enjoyed it. And then, the show didn't stand a chance, even though he looked like Hellblazer. He looked like Constantine. But now here we are. It's like a Keanu Reeves renaissance. Obviously, the John Wick movies are killing it. We won't talk about the Matrix 4. That was terrible. But, when you're like a Constantine sequel, I don't know if people are more excited or just like, curious. Like, okay. Question is Shia LaBeouf going to be back? Because he was in that first one, wasn't he? It was like young. I
don't think he is back, unless obviously they're still producing it. I think there was something that he wasn't due to return. He appears in a post-credit scene, right? If I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah.
So he dies in movie, but then in a post-credit scene, he's like, I'm an angel now. Look, got some wings here. So theoretically, the character could return, whether the actor does or not. I'm never sure whether, like, where is Shia LaBeouf's career right now? Is he in favor or out of favor at the minute?
It depends on what week you're asking, I suppose.
Yeah.
Hey, but please bring back Peter Stormare as Lucifer. Like that was one of my favorite devil depictions.
Yeah, 100%.
The only other devil depiction that I feel is equally as good with so little screen time is Viggo Mortensen in The Prophecy, the '90s Prophecy with Chris Walken. I don't know, you guys seen it? If you haven't,
I've seen it.
That's a beauty.
But yeah, this sounds cool. And could this be? Imagine a Justice League Dark movie as well with John Constantine.
They're producing something Justice League Dark related, but you know what? If you want to get into DC's movie slate, there are some real life horrors that are beyond anything that would come out of the Lambent configuration. That is a perfect hellscape.
Yeah. Okay.
That's true. It's probably best not to talk about DC right now. So
can we just not talk about DC or Marvel or it's you know what? After Endgame, I'm like, hey, I'm good. That was a good decade journey of 22 movies or however it was.
Yeah.
And then Spider-Man was great, of course, but everything since then, it's like with all the Disney Plus shows, it's just, again, this is going back to streaming sites. The streaming sites, because there's so many of them now, it feels like it's content above creativity. They just got to keep hammering out the products. It's like Star Wars, the same thing, where how dare within 7 years you have stolen my love of Star Wars. I will never forget what the day before episode 7 opened, or the day I couldn't even open the fucking video store. I was so excited. I was on pins and needles. I'm sure a lot of us were. I day drank for 4 hours with my buds. We're all hooping it up in the theater. And then, I think the next one, then we cut like 3-4 years later and it's opening a Solo. And there was like 10 people in the theater. And I'm just like, yep, you killed it that quick. And don't even get me started on Kenobi and Boba Fett and all that shit. I mean, Mandalorian good, but I know we're a horror movie thing, but don't get me on a tangent. I go off. This is how I talk to my customers and shit.
I'm pretty sure there's a new Star Wars show that Andor is released like today as well, isn't it?
Oh yeah,
today. Finished watching the first episode just before I came on this podcast. So
okay.
How was it?
I need to watch episode 2. Yeah, it's one of those. It's very, very adult. It's not for kids. I don't think it's very much
Rogue One.
as if. Huh?
Okay.
Is it the
Oh
tone of
yeah.
Rogue One?
It's sort of got Rogue One vibes, but it's very dirty. It's very in the sense that it has more of a Blade Runner kind of vibe going on. We're not on Tatooine anymore.
Wow,
We're very much checking out sort of the adult side of the galaxy.
I'm glad that's
not
the adult way that you went. Said, oh yeah, it's about banking and financial transactions.
Yeah, mortgages and shit. Yeah,
he's going to take the empire down via the stock market. Oh no!
It's funny. On the opposite end of the adult thing, before I got to work day, I didn't know what to think. I ended up watching Rob Zombie's The Munsters before I got to the show.
Oh, okay.
So I'm sure you remember the trailers they dropped. I mean, whoever cut that first trailer, I hope they lost their job. Terrible. Like this is going to be bad. But I'm like, well, I'll give it a chance because the Munsters TV show from the 60s, it's campy, it's cheesy. It was like, so I'm like, okay, I'll give it 10 minutes. And then I kept watching. And it was so fucking weird to think I'm watching a Rob Zombie movie with no swearing, no nudity, no gore. This is literally, it could have been rated G, honestly. Like, it's PG. And by the end of it, I thought, you know what? It was stupid. Yep. It was silly. Yep. Goofy. Yep. And a little bit too long. Absolutely. But when people come into my shop this Halloween season and they want to get their young kids to be 5 or 7 or 8-year-olds into spooky stuff, absolutely will I be recommending it. Is it a good movie? No. But was I entertained enough to watch the whole thing? Yep, absolutely. It's worth a watch if you had a few drinks and you want to feel like, okay, I'm going to pretend I'm 8 years old and I probably would have dug it back in that Scooby-Doo era of TV. Yeah. I was surprised.
Awesome. I'm going to have to check this out. I love the original series.
It's just, I couldn't get over the fact I'm watching a PG-rated Rob Zombie movie. It was so weird, and the most important thing, I can't believe I'm saying this, and God willing, don't strike with lightning. Sherry Moon Zombie did not overall annoy me in this movie. Like, she was okay. I can't believe I'm saying that. I
got to check out this film now.
I'm not, again, don't go in with high hopes, brother. Remember, I went in with lowered expectations. Maybe that's why, maybe it's not a good movie. I just was expecting complete shite. And it was more like a fart that didn't smell, Yeah,
but
that's
dude, you
terrible,
can't say that after you hyped up Halloween Ends so much for me right now that if Conal Cochran doesn't show up, you don't get to do that, man.
Expectations at an all-time high.
Yeah. I mean, I'm all over the place.
The next section of the podcast is what we've been watching. So I guess obviously you've covered that with Munsters. Is there anything else at all, Kev, that you've seen in the last 7 days or so you wanted to mention?
Shit. As I stare at my new release wall.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's a lot of old retro stuff getting like awesome new releases, which is what I love. Shit balls.
I wish I had a new releases wall.
Yeah, tomorrow. Oh man, tomorrow I got a new sexy Blu-ray import special edition of Martyrs from 2008 from Australia coming in.
Lovely.
That movie just
nice.
Still packs a punch all these years later. I'll tell you.
Yeah.
Just to add to your news there, sorry, about Disney and how much we love them right now.
Yeah.
I also read this morning that they are remaking, and it's official, Never Ending Story.
I posted that shit a couple days ago, and of course, one of my friends had to joke right away. He's like, "Well, of course they're making another one. It's called The Never Ending Story." And I'm like, "Oh God, it's like a dad joke, man."
Yeah,
but I hear you. It's just, it's not that Disney's remaking everything. It's the cautionary tale of like, and look, there are good remakes, but when it comes to Disney these days, they're just remaking shit because they need more content. They're scraping the ball. Like, I didn't watch it, but that new Pinocchio they put out, like, what the fuck's the point of that? It's literally the same movie, and the reviews have been shit. Like, I'm looking forward to Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio this Christmas, because he's going to put his classy del Toro spin on it. But Yeah. Fuck, I think they announced a few remakes. There's just some other weird spin-offs they're doing.
I saw the.
I'm waiting for them to remake Cult of VHS. That'd be a laugh. Disney's Cult of VHS.
Yeah, come on.
I'd love
Pull
to
your
see
finger.
that.
Pull your fingers out. I saw the poster for Neverending Story. I thought it was like a fan made thing, but then I guess they have confirmed it. So, yeah, why not? Anything else on what we've been watching? Anything, Aaron, that you've seen?
I'm actually I'm visiting older content because I left Fright Fest. At Fright Fest they had a whole stall of like Arrow Blu-rays and stuff. There was a really nice RoboCop like box set, which I really wish I got. But I picked up Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2 because I've never seen it.
Whoa.
And I know. So this is like a first for me. There are some gems that I've just been putting off for a while. So Texas Chainsaw 2 and Videodrome, which I've never seen. So
I've never seen
Videodrome. This
Videodrome.
is my Texas Chainsaw 2 VHS, and it's autographed by Bill Johnson, who played Leatherface. That's on my desk.
Amazing. That's
Brilliant
so
movie.
cool.
And the Arrow, mention any film, and Kev's like looking around the store, like, right.
I know I have something to represent it.
Yeah, like, leap up. Oh, it's good.
That's incredible.
What else, Aaron? Did you say? Then sorry.
David Cronenberg's Videodrome. Never seen it. It was there, and it was cheap. Have you got that on VHS?
Oh god, no. I used to, but it's the Criterion. The Criterion editions are still some of the best sellers because the case is absolutely gorgeous. It's over here. It's a slide out. It looks like a Betamax tape, and it says "Long Live the New Flesh" on it. And like just for the package alone, people keep buying it.
Kev's just gonna reach into his stomach and pull out a VHS copy of Videodrome.
That's it. Yeah.
Did you guys see Cronenberg's? Did you see Cronenberg's new movie? His return to
not yet.
No, it's on the list.
It's on the list
for a watch pretty soon, but not yet.
Yeah,
it's on the plus side, it's good to see him return to that world. On the downside, middle of the road. One of those movies that like felt about 20 minutes too long. When I'm just conversation with a lot of my customers, especially when it comes to horror movies, I don't understand what happened to the 85 to 90 minute movie. It was like perfect. Now everything has to be an hour and 50 minutes, almost 2 hours long. And it's just like, I get it if you're a historical movie or telling some heavy dramatic story, but if you're a slasher film, I don't understand. Like, and I don't know if you caught it at Fright Fest, Darren, but did they not premiere Terrifier 2 there?
Yeah, they did. Yeah, I didn't check it out though. I wasn't.
Okay. I mean, I've heard good things, and I know a couple of the producers on it. But when I heard the runtime, I was just like confused. I actually had to message them, like, "Tell me, your movie's not 2 hours and 18 minutes long, is it?" And they're like, "Yeah." And I'm like, "Okay, a killer Art the Clown movie that's almost 2.5 hours." But I don't know. Maybe obviously they must justify it somehow. So we'll see how that turns out.
You're watching these things thinking, could 45 minutes be credits? Maybe.
I think, like, obviously Rob Savage made Host, which was like an hour and something, less than an hour, and then Dashcam was maybe like 80 minutes. Is that right, Andy? Something like that.
Yeah,
it's another type one.
So hopefully that's a good example of the way to do it for genre movies, horror movies.
Yeah, that was. How was Dashcam? It's in my shop. I haven't checked it out yet, though.
Okay.
Yeah, you know what? I stand by Dashcam. I think it's an interesting watch. It was really polarizing because people had a reaction one way or the other to the protagonist, but I think that's the point.
I heard. Refresh a memory. What? She's very unlikable. Is that?
Yeah, she's a super extreme personality, and I think she is very active, especially for the time it's come out, because they filmed it in lockdown, right? So she has a lot of strongly expressed opinions about masks and travel and things like that. So I think for some people it will have hit a nerve on the fact that this is life at the minute, and this is what you encounter every day out in the world. Or at the time it came out at cinemas, it was just when you were allowed to start. I think I live in Scotland, so at the time that we saw that at the cinema, masks indoors were still the law here. So like it was just at that point where things were going. So I think it was a time when people's were super heightened about that. And then the point of her character is that she is a very outspoken, opinionated, extreme version. It's the friend that you that you have that maybe you don't see so much anymore, and then the one that you see after 10 years and they are exactly the same, have the same personality type and the same destructive behaviors they had when you were 18, but no one else has those anymore so much anymore. And I think I think some people, I think some of the negative reviews that you see of it are people who probably didn't finish the movie because they had a very instant reaction to it and didn't finish. But like with lots of films, I think if you get to the end of it and move through, it pays off really well. Certainly, in my opinion, it pays off really well for what it's setting out to do. And those last few sections, for the budget they will have had, I know more so than when they were starting out, but for a modest budget and the kind of in-camera, the POV work they were doing, there's some impressive scares in it, and there's some impressive effects work I found as well. And it's one that you react to as well. Like there are some bits, I was writhing in my seat, like because of the, it shows some really good things that affect you when you go through and watch it.
We covered it on a full episode as well, didn't we? Like a little while back.
Did.
So got a deep dive of our thoughts there. If anyone wants to listen to that, Andy, have you seen anything this week that you wanted to mention?
Couple of things I'll rattle off them super quick, Ben, because there's nothing. Well, there's only one thing new. Saw Bodies over at the DCA the other day. It's a lot of fun, I really enjoyed it. Like it's a smart little movie, like you said the other week. Really, for me, I thought it was really sharply written. In many ways, horror aside, made me feel a little bit better about myself because it is very heavily marketed as a Gen Z horror movie. I'm like, I understand you and where you're coming from. Maybe the media reaction that different generations are completely incompatible with each other is a lie. And actually, the youth of today are all right, and they are going to do horror movies, and they don't stand for everything I don't. I enjoyed it. It was loads of fun.
I think we're going to do
little bonus on that
bonus episode. Yeah. Okay.
Save the rest for there. I've also
Nice.
continued on through the Howling movies. I've got to Howling 5.
Oh,
A bit like I said with Howling 4. I like the Howling movies less when they try to be more sensible. I like the Gothic Castle and the little blast of opera you get every time someone gets got in this one. But it's no Howling 3 Marsupials, the most batshit one ever.
it's a masterpiece, part 3.
So
Leave it to
good.
the Aussies. Leave it to the Aussies,
I literally watched part 3 today. So after Andy was talking about 2 and 3 last week, I went and watched 2 and 3. And I've pretty much got nothing to add other than what Andy mentioned, which is that werewolf orgies, werewolf marsupials, it's all there.
I want to revisit that question now. Before Ben had watched The Howling 2, he claimed that werewolves were not the horniest of the classic monsters. Now, having seen The Howling 2, Ben, do you eat those words?
I eat those words. I eat them whole. They're definitely the horniest. Horny werewolf orgies. Throughout, from start to finish, pretty much.
And then the last thing on my list this week was I revisited, because we've been talking about it a little bit, some classic episodes of one of the biggest selling horror authors of all time. I checked out a couple of old episodes of Goosebumps, and what I've come away with is that I don't know if R.L. Stine has any siblings, but if he does, I imagine they did not get on well, because in everything there is a horrible younger sister or brother. And in the one episode I watched, the happy ending to the story was that everything was resolved except his sister had been erased from existence.
Oh, okay.
There's some
been
childhood
wiped from the
emotion.
timeline.
Mm-hmm. There's some memories there for sure.
Wow.
Definitely.
Amazing.
So that's
apart from Howling 2 and 3, I also watched Speak No Evil, which has been getting a lot of there's been a lot of chatter all over.
Is
like
that
Twitter
that is the
about that
WWE Jesus Loves the Little Children Kane one, right?
one.
No, that's See No Evil.
See No Evil.
See No Evil. Yeah.
See No Evil. Speak No Evil it premiered on Shudder this week. It's a story of like a Danish family who go to stay with a Dutch family that they meet on holiday, and obviously things aren't as they seem. I don't want to spoil anything, but it's so tense, like all the way through, and mainly from like awkward social situations. But there's this like dread that runs through it as well, where you're just like, something's gonna go terribly wrong, and I kind of can see it's going to go in one or two directions, and then it kind of goes in a third direction, which is very, very impressive, and I think very, very effective. It's a super unsettling, horror film, but it kind of nails this distressing social anxiety setting and some of the worst decisions made by characters in a movie I've seen this year. Just like, get out of there, leave. Why are you doing this? Please stop it. Oh God, no.
Right.
Yeah.
It's on my watch list as we speak. There we go.
Yeah, I think we had a tweet asking us to cover it, Andy. So it'd be good if we both see it and we can have a discussion about it, because there's lots to discuss.
All right.
Sorry,
Okay,
guys. I've still got Richard Pryor and I've
Oh,
got
yeah,
Richard
yeah.
Pryor and Gene Wilder in my head, and I'm thinking, because you've both said the same titles now. I'm like,
1989 was a good year, my friend. That was ruled. And I rewatched. Actually, it's funny. It's totally not horror, but I rewatched that Gene Wilder Pryor one. I literally forgot Kevin Spacey was a bad guy in that movie.
yeah,
I'm like, oh
Yeah.
shit! It's always weird seeing Kevin
Yeah.
Spacey now. I'm like, damn, go away, Kevin Spacey.
yeah. It feels
Real
weird
life
every,
bad
every time
guy.
he turns up, but it's like, oh,
Yeah.
we're not good right now. I don't think so.
Well, you know,
See No Evil was with, there's 2006 with Kane, Glenn Jacobs himself, right?
Yeah, and Richard Pryor.
And Richard Pryor.
Richard Pryor. Yeah.
Now,
That's
will
where
I
he
need-
tombstoned him, right? Chokeslam.
Will I need to go and revisit See No Evil and
Yes,
then an unnamed
always
Hear No
yes.
Evil before I can then watch Speak No Evil, so I understand
Yes.
what's going on?
No, you
Of
have to
course.
watch every episode of Monday Night Raw and also every stand-up with Richard Pryor to sort of get the crossover.
To get the
But
crossover.
only the Attitude Era Monday Night Raw. That's all I need to watch.
Yeah,
98,
nothing after that.
97 to about 2001. Then you're good. Then you can
Just-
jump into See No Evil.
Just to cap this tangent, just in case I want to make sure I'm not imagining this. Kane is a mayor now, right? He's a mayor of a town.
He is a mayor, and he's a very, very conservative Republican mayor at that.
He
Yes.
sure is, yeah.
Doesn't wear the
He's-
mask.
No.
He should
That
wear the
wouldn't work.
mask.
Every
Yeah.
time he comes in for a meeting, he just sort of does that, and then the fire comes out from
the corners of the office.
That's it. Yeah, everywhere he goes, cutting ribbons.
Oh man. Okay.
What a world.
So that is it for what we've been watching, apart from the movie of the week. The reason we're all here, God knows how long into the episode we are, about to discuss Night of the Creeps, which is a 1986 American science fiction horror comedy film written and directed by Fred Dekker. In its featured directorial debut, it stars Jason Lively, Jill Whitlow, and Tom Atkins. So the main plot is around alien brain parasites, which enter humans through the mouth, turning their hosts into killing zombies. Some teenagers start to fight against them. That's not the best synopsis, to be fair. There's so much more going on because obviously it mixes in slashers, alien invasion movies, and definitely the most iconic role of Tom Atkins. And he's had some iconic roles, but this is the most, and the most quotable as well. So I've got a couple of choice reviews for this film. But first of all, it's got 6.7 on IMDb, 3.6 on Letterboxd. On Rotten Tomatoes, a 75% critic score and a 70% audience score, which is pretty good. And a couple of choice reviews on Letterboxd. Ian West says, a perfect midnight movie mixture of sci-fi, horror, and comedy. The kind of pulpy B-movie homage hybrid swill with enough heart that never breaks its integrity or descends into spoofy mediocrity. And that's 5 stars. Considering their description of it includes the word swill, 5 stars is pretty generous. And then Ogami says it's a precursor to Slither. Its cult classic is good, cheesy fun, great quotable lines, a fine performance from Tom Atkins. What's not to like? That's 3.5 stars. And then never mind B movies. This is the B movie, says Emperor Cupcake, 5 stars as well. So yeah, everyone seems to be loving this, and this is the first time that I've ever seen Night of the Creeps. Can I
Yes,
say that
it
for you
is.
as well, Andy?
Yeah, same. Like, I was aware of Slither and I was aware of the comparisons with Slither, but I'd never seen Night of the Creeps until this was a perfect excuse to get round to it. It's been on that list for a while, but content is infinite. So yeah, this was a good way to prioritize it.
Content is infinite. What is your relationship with this film, Kev?
Oh, my relationship.
Yeah.
Well, I saw it at the most impressionable age, the year it came out. So I was 10. And, it was that VHS cover, like the classic poster. I don't know what image they have on reviews, but it should be the one. The good news here, the good news is your dates are here. The bad news is they're dead. And, judging by that poster, that was when you grabbed from the video store because the cover just pulled you in. But I thought it was going to be like a straight up horror movie. But even as a young age, you're like opening that movie up in black and white with aliens. And then it was obviously that opening shot was a tribute to like the Blob, more or less, with the comet coming down. But it was just a childhood favorite. And at that time, I'd already seen Tom Atkins in The Fog and Escape from New York, and obviously Halloween 3, the greatest, sequel ever made. So it just became a love letter. In fact, it was I even forgot about it for quite some time. But in 2010, for our film fest, we tracked down to 35 millimeter print, and we had a midnight screening of it at our theater. And we had about 200 people show up. And yes, we were serving Miller in the theater. And man, you could tell, like, it was great because everybody that came that night, they had all seen it, but they had forgot all about it until we were advertising it. Because it's just one of those movies, like you said, there's just so much content out there, especially from that decade. Like, holy shit, Night of the Creeps. Like, I haven't thought about that forever,
So apparently
go ahead.
Apparently, sorry, Kev. Apparently it didn't perform too well at the box office, but obviously it has developed quite the cult following.
Fred Dekker, that unfortunately, writer-director Fred Dekker, that happened twice, 2 times in a row. 2 movies that did not perform well at the box office, but had the cult following. And of course, I'm talking about his follow-up after this was Monster Squad. So
Monster Squad, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man, I used to watch Monster Squad so much as a kid. And then he directed RoboCop 3.
And then it killed his career, understandably,
Yeah.
It wasn't his fault, though. I know I don't want to get sidetracked, but if you look at the story of RoboCop 3, that was not his fault. They wanted to adapt the Alan Moore, or was it Frank Miller? Anyways, I think it was Frank Miller. And then the studio got all nervous because RoboCop 2 underperformed. So, like, it can't be rated R. We got to make it PG or PG-13 and flying jetpack and fucking samurai cyborgs and what the shit? Killing off fucking Nancy Allen 10 minutes into the movie? What are you doing? Terrible, terrible stuff. And they couldn't get Peter Weller back either. So Fred Dekker,
there we go.
Never stood a chance.
Poor guy, Fred Dekker, especially because considering this film, which is like iconic. So
what a debut too, as well. Those, Night of the Creeps and Monster Squad, a good pairing actually. I can imagine you could back to back those very nicely. Maybe as a introduction to horror, maybe the other way around. Ben, I know your daughter is getting more into horror, and didn't you watch Monster Squad? Was it last Halloween, a couple of years or 2 Halloweens?
Yeah, I think it was maybe last year. And then as soon as there was a werewolf transformation, she was like, "That's enough for me." She
was noping out.
Yeah, noping straight. And to be fair, I think that was kind of what got me when I was a kid. The werewolf stuff. It was always werewolves for me that scared me.
And how old's your daughter?
She's 12. So
that's a good age. I mean, maybe our childhoods were different. I mean, I remember 10-year-old me, like, Texas Chainsaw, Dawn of the Dead.
Yeah.
And this is at 10 years old. This was the movie Return of the Living Dead, guys. That's the one.
Jesus. That was my introduction into horror. I was 6 and my dad was a little drunk and my mum was out and he was like, "You want to watch a horror movie?" And I was like, "Yeah, go on then." And he put Return of the Living Dead on, and it was the first time I'd seen boobs. It was the first time I'd seen someone bite into someone's skull. I remember it shit me up to the point where I did not want to sleep, but the music was awesome. And I really dug the soundtrack. And what's the guy who was in it? He recently passed away, didn't he?
Clue Gallagher, yeah.
Yeah, he passed away.
Yeah, he passed away. And of course, like, my first childhood crush was Linnea Quigley, who played Trash in that movie. I mean, you saw that graveyard.
We used to go to the store.
Oh,
that graveyard scene. Yeah, I mean, who can blame you? That was
who can blame you?
who can blame you, man?
Who can blame you? Yeah. Every time I see a cemetery now, I just get the horn.
Didn't she have like some sort of Didn't she have a fitness video? You've already mentioned fitness videos, but didn't she have a fitness
he's
video?
got to get it.
Oh my god. I'm so glad that this is I'm so glad every reference.
I love that you can do that.
Linnea Quigley's horror movie workout.
That's insane.
Wow.
I drew that from, like, was that Disgusting Cult of VHS? Did I imagine that?
No, we didn't
Oh.
discuss that. No,
We should have.
we should have. Well, we're gonna. Yeah.
I
The
saw that on
director,
something else
the
recently.
director of this horror movie workout, he knew what the fans wanted because I couldn't recall ever seen it. So I popped it in my VCR last month. It was a gift from a customer. And literally the first 3 minutes is Linnea quickly having a shower. That's it. While the credits are rolling, soaping her body up.
Well, you've got to be clean before you
Yeah,
do
you got to
work,
get
eh?
clean.
You
before
know what I
get
mean?
Dirty.
Yeah.
And then she talks about, how, it's a hard life she lives. They show all the clips from all the movies she's been in, fighting monsters, being killed. And then she's like, time for that Jane Fonda workout thing. The zombie dancers are behind her and shit. So I cherish it. I'm very happy I have this in my store now.
You're looking pretty slim as well, I must say.
Popping that one in a fair bit.
Yeah, it works.
It really does.
Okay.
So Aaron, what's your history with this movie? I guess I know that it was your suggestion to bring along, right? So I imagine you have a deep fondness for this one.
Yeah, because I thought I was being quite high and mighty, saying you've never seen Night of the Creeps, and I'd only seen it 2 years previous. So high and mighty words to sort of go in there. I actually, all right, okay. So I saw Night of the Creeps just before the pandemic, I think, a couple of years before the pandemic. And the only reason I found out about it was because I watched In Search of Darkness. And I remember seeing Tom Atkins and thinking, yeah, I got to pop this one in. So I went out and got it. And I think I watched it on Halloween night with my brother. And we were drunk and we never had so much fun watching this film. And I was so surprised that this one slipped through my net that it just became a little bit of an obsession. Like every once in a while, it's kind of like a comfort movie. Every once in a while, I'll stick Night of the Creeps on. And there's just something about it that just, it has all the bits of the 80s I love. It feels a little bit like a John Hughes movie every now and again, or it feels like Animal House. But at the same time, it feels like an Ed Wood movie. You know, it's got a bit of Plan 9 from Outer Space in there, where it kind of feels like they're throwing the kitchen sink in. But for me, it works. For me, the combination of our lead actor and I've forgotten the name of the girl in it. She was in Freddy's Nightmares. Kev, do you remember her name?
Oh shit, I
The
can't
actress?
remember. I was gonna ask,
is it Jill Whitlow?
She was in Freddy's Nightmares in one of the episodes.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So it's Jill Whitlow, who plays
Jill Whitlow, that's it.
Cynthia Cronenberg, and she was in an episode of Freddy's Nightmares.
Oh, there you go. Yeah,
called Mother's Day.
that was it. Mother's Day. Yeah, it was. I only know this because I got the bootleg Blu-ray not long ago from a friend. Thanks, Camille. And she appeared in the episode, and I thought she was Sarah Silverman because she does look a bit like her. And then I remembered, she's from Night of the Creeps, and then of course you got Tom Atkins, and every scene he's in just fucking steals it for me. And you just know that he's going in with purpose in every scene, and he just doesn't give a fuck at this point, I think. And there's just that line, I think one of the first lines he does is like, is this a crime scene or the scene from a bad B movie? And you're like, yeah, he gets it.
Yeah, he knows.
Totally gets it.
Obviously, there's loads of Easter eggs as well. The character names of like the main characters, all their surnames are named after like famous directors. Jason Lively plays Chris Romero. Steve Marshall is J.C. Hooper. You've got Cynthia Cronenberg, Jill Whitlow, who we obviously already mentioned, but then we've also got like Detective Landis, Sergeant Raimi. It's great. It's really fun to sort of see those homages and try and like work them out and stuff. That's really cool. And a great cold open as well. It's just
I feel like
really
a lesser
fun
film wouldn't bother with the initial opening. I mean, even as far as the black and white section, but even within that section, how many films go to the expense of having a whole bit with aliens that you don't see again until the dying seconds, right? We get like a whole, must have been a fairly significant investment to do. A couple of those little station looking guys chasing each other. You can tell which ones are the goodies because they've got pupils in their eyes, and the baddie doesn't. And he, like, again, especially for a film of the time or a, the things it was taking inspiration from, like The Blob, like you mentioned, you would be forgiven, nay, expected to just have it fall out of the sky without explanation, and you wouldn't think to ask for one. You wouldn't be there with your like little Oliver the orphan with a bowl saying, "Please, sir," an explanation. You'd never get one. But they give you one. You get to see this. They invest in having some aliens chasing each other, and it firing off there. And tonally, very different from what follows, right? We go from the color out in space to a black and white opener. Phenomenally done. Loved it. I was, yeah.
So this opening is obviously it's 1959. We're on a spacecraft. There's two aliens chasing another alien dude, and he's got like how would you describe it? Sort of like a canister filled with
big old jar of slugs.
Yeah.
Big old jar of slugs.
Doesn't want to get caught, but the narcs are after him, so he flushes it.
The little naked asses of these aliens just like running along. I don't know why. Yeah, crap me up. And he ejects that out into space. This thing of, but he's clearly got no respect for waste in space waste, because it's only goes and lands on Earth where everything's black and white, and it's the 50s.
And everyone's having a thing, and then there's lots of nice organic putting things together. Everyone's having a lovely old-fashioned gossip in the dorm room, slagging off someone's ex-boyfriend because he's gone and got himself a shit job like policeman.
Like, when is a policeman a shit job? I know. I was always confused. Like, he's a cop,
it's
man.
true.
He protects lives, and nah, he's a shit job.
Yeah.
You do better than that.
It's a shit job. My new boyfriend, who has a car and otherwise no
the new boyfriend. I mean, how old are they supposed to be? Are they like college age?
Is that
They're
what
college.
This guy looks like at least mid-40s. This dude.
That's casting in the 80s, my friend.
Casting
you know as well as I do.
That's it.
Friday
Yeah.
the 13th movie. They're not teenagers.
It was the 50s, man. A lot of people looked older.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thanks
look
a
at
lot.
Steve McQueen in The Blob, like the original Blob, right? He was supposed to be 17 years old. Even back then,
Jesus.
his first movie, he looked like he was 30. He had gray on the side of his hairs,
The thing
He
is,
had a
that's
stressful childhood.
You had to do it because obviously when you look at photos when you're a kid and you look back and think, oh yeah, my grandparents were maybe in their 60s when I was a kid, but 60 in 1970s 80s money is 80 years old now. It's like filming horses, and you have to paint when you have to paint horses to have cows on film. It's like that. You have to make sure you make these adjustments.
I was trying to work out how old Tom Atkins was when he did this film, because he
22.
20 in 80s years. Yeah, that makes sense.
I want to say Tommy was late 30s, early 40s when he did it.
No, he looks like he's in his 50s.
Really?
I know.
So he was
we're talking
born in 1935.
30. Oh, all right. He would have been 50,
Okay.
more or less. They shot at 85.
You were doing the 80s casting thing to the nth degree, then just like, hang on a minute.
Yeah. Go on, burn it. Wow.
50. Shit, man. Does that mean when Halloween ends, we're gonna see 86-year-old Tommy Atkins come
86-year-old
in?
Tom
Yeah.
Atkins. Yeah.
All right. I'm down with
Follow
it.
me.
I'm down
That's
with it.
fine, because how old Michael Myers supposed to be at this point? Same age.
Michael Myers
No.
killed his sister in 1963. He was 6, so he was born in 57. Yeah, he's in his mid 70s. Yeah.
Wow.
Christ. I think we had the same discussion when we were talking about the latest Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie as well, like how old Leatherface was supposed to be. All these like geriatric killers, man.
Well, they've both of them have been in the care system, so balanced diet, no snacks, no darts to punch in there. So
Wow.
good cardio.
Great cardio. Okay. So the college dude and his girlfriend. I like that. How this connects to the plot line in 1986 and Tommy Atkins' character is great, because I didn't make that connection straight away. So it's good when it's kind of like revealed. Throughout a dream sequence as well. But
Onto a classic makeout zone, only to see boyfriend who's wasted his life by becoming a policeman they were just slagging off turns up to tell him, hey, there's a lunatic escape. Oh, he gets all disappointed.
Right? Who's that guy? Just someone from my past. You know what? Just stay here.
Yeah,
There is a
shitty
lunatic.
policeman.
There is a lunatic on the loose. Just stay here. All right. Just stay here. Enjoy yourselves.
Beautiful.
Idiots. And then there is the crash landing of an object, a falling star, which I think they believe, which lands not far away. And the college dude, has a college dude got a name in this? He's just called
is he
Steve?
Chad or Brad or Steve?
Something generic and douchey.
Biff.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Typical.
There's a character called Steve here, so that must be him. He goes to investigate, and he basically gets a slug leap out straight down into his mouth, which is terrible. Really sorry for him. What I like here is that we don't kind of like see what happens next. We don't see, him get put on ice or anything like that. We kind of just cut immediately forward 27 years. Well, of course, obviously we see the axe wielding maniac moment as well, which kind of goes alongside. There's this good tension with the axe wielding maniac approaching the car with the girl in, and also obviously Steve getting slugged. That those two moments go along side by side really well.
I think this is the moment where you really get the idea of what you're in for. When you hear the radio broadcast of, hey, there's a lunatic he's escaped from this area and he's on this, and she puts the lights of the car on, and it's the road he's been walking along. Approximately 3 miles from the dorms. It's like dorms 3 miles. Like this is high praise, I'd say. This is like airplane levels of like comedy and like that you're writing in there. Airplane level joke writing on this one. It's great.
Small beautiful town, Aaron. They only had like the sheriff, deputy sheriff, and Tom Atkins, who's
Tom Atkins.
And Tom Atkins.
No one wants to be a policeman in that town. All the real up and comers are working at Macca's and so on. Where the real money is.
Being the cool boyfriends.
Yeah,
there's about as many cops in this town as Camp Crystal Lake County. Like, where the cops after all that shit? You think they would have hired more law enforcement just in case?
Per capita, you'd have asked Jessica Fletcher to move in to really like cut down on that crime.
Okay, so we flash forward 27 years.
It's the 80s now, as if this film couldn't have got better. Now it's landed itself in the greatest decade.
Right in the middle of. Well, we've seen like toilet paper get thrown over trees. Pledge week, is that what it's called? Pledge week?
I believe so. I'm not. American college culture is very different than Canadian. So, but yeah, the Pledge week and the frats and all that shit. So
similar to British culture, I think nothing makes us less comfortable than the concept of joining in. Yuck.
Oh, come on, really? You've not sat down and gone Gryffindor?
Absolutely not.
No, fair enough.
Until recent events, I've never heard the BBC try and get me interested in something more to less success. This week they tried to top it, but
James. I mean, good pair of like I just love their relationship. It's like I wasn't entirely sure. I didn't kind of explain.
I think, yeah, he is. The character is crippled. I don't believe the actor was. So I found it a very curious choice to go with that, especially in the 80s.
Yeah.
I mean, great. Talk about inclusion, because most handicapped characters in the 80s were, in horror movies, I can only think of poor Rick in the wheelchair in Fraternity Part 2, and he gets the worst.
We literally just covered Silver Bullet last week. Where
of course,
wheelchair as well. So
Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yeah, Franklin. Yeah, but with crutches, that might be one of the only. And for such a prominent role too.
I wasn't sure whether he was like recovering from an injury or something, but here in the description it does say disabled. So, so it's pledge week at Corman University, where they're going around basically just instantly falling in love with people they see, which happens, sometimes the hormones are running wild.
Wow. you got into dad mode straight away. The hormones are running wild.
I understand what it's like, okay? Hormones running wild. You see a woman from across the way, you're automatically in love. I mean, I feel like that sometimes.
It's definitely love. It couldn't be anything else. It's pure, unadulterated love. That's all you're saying.
It's got that great school feeling about it, because everyone.
But he does say, "I'm going to marry her," and it's like. It's not. I'm going to do. It's just married.
In the 80s, people got married a lot younger.
It was the 80s. There was no social media, so meeting other members of the opposite sex was a lot tougher. So you got to cling on to what you see back then and don't lose track of them. Because if they disappeared from you, you can't find them on Tinder or whatever fucking site people are using these days, you know?
Yeah, you could definitely be in love with someone based on the concept of those great common, there's great common threads that tie you together, like being in the same set for maths, things like that. Those are the things
love
that
at
really
first
bind
sight.
a
She's my
relationship.
soulmate. Isn't it weird that your soulmate ends up going to the same school as you? Well, I guess so, but I don't control the universe.
It was meant to be. That's why they're a soulmate. Yeah. You don't.
Exactly.
A real altruist. Like, obviously, have changed since the 80s, but JC, with his disability, has basically resigned himself to the fact that he's never going to meet anyone. And he openly says this. It's like, well, I'm never gonna meet anyone, so I'm investing all my energy into hooking you up, my good friend.
The ultimate wingman.
Absolutely.
Despite being a quick-witted, charming man. Yeah. So he uses his power to help his friend, and he goes over and deals with the fact that his friend, who is in love with this woman and is going to marry her, to introduce herself and to ridicule a monobrowed footballer player.
I think there's a phone call for you in the house.
There's a phone call for you, yeah.
What does he call him? What does he say his name
Biff
is?
Mongo?
It was.
I can't.
Mongo Jerry.
He just call him Biff, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Biff or Mongo.
But he comes back, but obviously in this time, I think Cynthia's charmed by the scenario, and obviously they gesture over to Chris, who's standing across the way, my friend over there, and he turns and immediately spills a drink over another guy.
Yeah,
humiliating. But yeah, essentially they get tasked. They meet Cynthia's boyfriend,
who's
Brad.
The worst bloke of all, Captain Red Flags himself for this movie.
I see popped up collar, Aryan blonde hair.
Oh yeah,
bleached eyebrows too. I mean, he was like super blonde or almost albino-y. Like, yeah.
It didn't seem.
They sure knew how to really paint a picture of villains of that era in the college years in the 80s. It wasn't actors like that and William Zabka, Johnny Lawrence, and those kind of guys. I mean, they were always the bad guy. Don't trust the blonde hair. I don't care how pretty they are; they're pricks.
That's it, man. They even made Christopher Walken blonde for James Bond, so you just know there was something in the air with blonde hair.
Or if you guys never seen it, Sean S. Cunningham's awesome 80s flick, The New Kids, with James Spader and Lori Lawton, and Spader's the bad guy. And if you Google in James Spader New Kids, you have to see his hair and his eyebrows. It's insane, like full on albino, evil as fuck. High school student, like with guns and shit. Like,
Jesus,
keep that title in mind, New Kids. It's amazing.
Oh my god.
Oh, and Tom Atkins is in that fucking movie too.
Oh, he is as well.
Oh, just realized
Mac
that.
Williams.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Oh wow, that is really blonde.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're looking at it, James Spader.
Yeah. Just looking at it now.
Oh, there he is.
If you got time later today, just watch the trailer, boys. Remember, it's from the director of Friday the 13th, so it's worth a watch right there.
And it's got Tom Atkins. You had me at Tom Atkins.
Don't get too excited. It's more a glorified cameo in that one. You know why? Because he was busy filming this movie. That's why.
Oh. So he just popped along to see another bad blonde kid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
but not to get sidetracked, but the whole point of that dramatic tale was 80s blonde meets evil. Like it just means evil.
And the most uncomplicatedly evil as well, because your other villainous roles in movies of youth, you get like a Biff Tannen that you've had him. He's not complexly evil. He's just a bad bloke. But like he hasn't got the same sinisterness as we have from Brad here, who then sets our plucky heroes on a very questionable task to join the frat. Yes, steal a body.
Yeah, but that's just like something. This is where I thought it sort of became a bit Animal House, because they do mention in Animal House like sending cadavers to the alumni dinner or something like that. And it was like sending the cadavers there. So that there's some sort of like Animal House like inspiration right there. Kevin's gonna go pull out Animal House now. Is that right?
Yeah.
I wish. I know I have the VHS though. Actually, I'll be back in 1 minute. I just got to switch my sign to my customers back at, I'm going to add an extra hour on that sign. So
Get on there.
Yeah, sure.
Do it.
Yeah, he sends
Should
him
we
in
dye our hair blonde before Kevin gets back? Just really freak him out.
And don't mention anything.
Don't go all Village of the Damned on me. That's pretty
We'll stay right here.
So obviously, in order to, I guess it's to impress Cynthia or to kind of get her attention,
because they want
join a fraternity.
Yeah, they want to join the fraternity that she's associated with, so she will give them the time of day effectively. Although she seems quite willing to give them the time of day already.
Did you enjoy the "It's all Greek to me" line?
Yes, very good.
Yeah.
Very good.
I mean, she's quite questionable in itself. Like, she can't just only be realizing that he's a bit of a dick. Like, at this point, like, she must have seen stuff or been witness to stuff and whatever. So it kind of makes me think, is she a good person? Is she not? It's like, and all of a sudden these guys show up and, you know, oh, they're so different. They're so funny. Well, one of them's funny, one of them's quite cute and whatever. But it just seemed a little unrealistic to me. But again, I let it slide because,
like the movie
as a whole package, it kind of works for me. I just expect all 80s films about school, high school, college and whatever to be like that. So it's very easily forgivable for me. If it was set in Britain, I'd probably laugh that shit out the door, to be honest. But
to be fair, I guess much like we've spoken about, you can look at someone from afar and be in love with them in those days. Maybe she had been stuck into that, you know, she'd seen him from a distance and it really took him kicking the crutches away from a disabled man to really shatter that illusion.
That's how they met.
Maybe you're not so bad. Maybe you're not so good.
Oh, care with the elderly. Oh.
So yeah, they're tasked with stealing a cadaver from the University Medical Center and depositing it on the steps of a rival fraternity house, which you know, for people of normal persuasion, you might be like, nah, I ain't getting involved in that. But no, Chris and JC decide to put their heads together and go and try, well, at least attempt to do it, but it doesn't quite work out for them.
And thankfully, you know, arguably until the death of it, they're doing quite well because they strike a bit of luck that a young scientist has only remembered 3 of his 4-digit passcode numbers.
Classic.
And then has gone, I've got to go and make a phone call to do this. And unfortunately, 80s technology, there isn't a timeout function. It will leave you hovering on that last number indefinitely, giving anyone who walks past a 1 in 10 chance of just getting in.
Yeah. Please tell us
good writing, boys. That's some good writing right there, you know? Clever.
This is how you get it out in a tight 90.
Yeah.
You know, you're making another movie. That's another 20 minutes that you're adding in there. If someone goes, right, how are we going to get it in there? When they're going to meet this scientist character who they befriend, who's like, come and help me with the experiment, boys. And of course, as all children in the 80s, you probably should have at least one friend who is an elderly professor. You could have got 20 minutes in there, but they shortcut that and just have a door with only 1 number left to open it.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Wow.
So they go in, and then there's a corpse in like a cryogenic tube, I guess.
Don't worry, though, not naked. He's got some big John Spartan pants on to preserve his dignity.
They had to make sure Steve was covered up. You know, it was Steve, right? That was his name from the 50s.
Yeah, Steve.
Yeah.
So Steve from the first scene. And they let him out, and he just. Well, it's weird how they let him out because they kind of just like. Just kind of guide him out, just like, oh, whoops, oh, come in, then be careful. Yeah, and then what happens is he just collapses and
he grabs them, doesn't he? Grabs the arm.
Ah, that's right. Yeah, grabs the arm. They
drop
scream
him
and leg it.
Yeah,
as you would,
screaming like banshees.
Yeah,
screaming like banshees.
And the professor. Was it a professor? The dude like sees them running out. He gets knocked over.
His name is just Young Scientist. In a world where everyone else has got like a horror movie director, but this fella absolutely stiffed with just Young Scientist.
Yeah,
it could have been anything.
But I believe that actor, that Young Scientist, his face popped up in many movies for many couple more decades.
That dude,
yeah.
So you will also see Young Scientist, aka David Paymer. You know,
that's
from 13 is in Horse Girl. He's in Quiz Show.
Get Shorty for sure.
Shorty.
Get Shorty.
Oh, prime real estate. Howard the Duck.
Wow.
He's from young scientist in Howard the Duck. He is Larry, scientist.
Ah, he got promoted.
So now he's named scientist by the time he gets to Howard the Duck.
So after they flee, he goes in there, doesn't he, the scientist, and he gets killed. Does he get killed off screen? Is it just like
you see the slug, I believe, fly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He gets a slug in the gob, and this is when we get Tom Atkins getting his call, right?
Oh
Absolutely.
yeah. He's on the beach, isn't he?
He's on the beach, his dream scene.
Yeah, and the woman, I remember she comes out of his girlfriend,
It's
right?
like a
Comes out of the
reverse
water,
shot,
done in reverse, which I thought was, I think it was yeah, that's it. I remember now. And then he wakes up from his dream, or he goes into the nightmare, doesn't he, to establish that he's the same cop that was back in the 50s. So he's
I like it. I like
it.
how it's him like at his current age as well, back in 1959, kind of just,
and it's in color as well.
witnessing.
That was a nice touch.
Yeah.
And obviously witnessing his ex-girlfriend being butchered as well. Yeah, and then he's woken up by the phone call, which is obviously called into this cryogenics lab break-in, where there are two bodies. How many?
There's two bodies.
That's not going to change by the time I arrive, is it? Absolutely not. You can count on that. Okay, I'll see you in a minute. Gets down there, and you'll never guess what. Only one now.
Only one. And obviously, yeah, we get the iconic line, "Thrill me," which is pretty much how he opens any interaction with anybody in this movie, which is great.
I'm taking that on board.
But with him, it works. If I was to walk around doing that during my normal everyday, like, my mum, like, "Hey, Aaron," like, "Thrill me," like, it'll be like, "The fuck's wrong with you?" Like, it doesn't make any sense.
When you sit down to dinner,
yeah,
thrill
me. That's it. Coffee from Starbucks, thrill me. Yeah, sure. But with him, it works.
That's because he has the Atkins attitude. You know, certain dialogue. Can we work with certain humans on this planet? Tom Atkins was brought here to deliver just those two words over and over.
It's true.
And,
it's true. I agree.
If you see him, if you ever get a chance, Tom Atkins at conventions, people want that catchphrase said by him more than anything else he's ever done. It's just a fact, you know.
Wow.
Either that or it's Miller time, one or the other.
Miller time, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's got some great lines in this, and he's just a perfect character for it as well. Just like how would you say, like this? It says here like a haunted cop. Obviously, he's been through a lot of trauma in his past, with obviously his ex-girlfriend being murdered the way she was.
Unlike his first week as a policeman as well. That is a poor start to a career in policing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and obviously he's been doing it for like 30 years or so. Well, less than 30 years, but nearly 30 years, and he's probably seen it all, hasn't he, Ray Cameron? So he goes down to the cryogenics lab break-in, but one of the bodies, the one that seems to have been in the cryogenics tube, is gone missing. And would you say belittles the other cops who clearly don't know?
Clearly misplaced a body.
Have you misplaced a body? Yeah, I think so. I was there a minute ago, but sorry. But then we do see that this guy is obviously a reanimated corpse making his way towards the sorority house. And it's the same sorority house where he picked up his date 27 years ago. Still on his mind, you see. He's still thinking about that date. And obviously that is where Cynthia is, and we're kind of introduced to her sorority and all her friends there as well.
One of the bookish students, you can tell she's a nerd because she has glasses and she wants to put Chekhov's tray of brains down in the basement.
Yes. Talk about good heavy-handed foreshadowing. Just put him in the cellar. Put him in the cellar.
Chekhov's tray of brains. Chekhov's cat at the door.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All of his stuff is around. Like cat knocks at the door, gets that in. It's all right. It's just a nice cat for the minute, but that's going to come back. Classic sorority house stuff. People getting slowly changed. Probably takes Cynthia a good 25 minutes to put her jammies on.
God bless. Yeah.
God bless. It just seems like, just do your edit, wouldn't it? You can have a quiet moment in that house. You can just have a quiet moment to yourself. If you're a bookish and you just wanted to read the latest, I don't know, Mills and Boone.
You have to sit down in the abandoned living room with the French doors.
Yeah.
And then the
read some Chekhov.
And then the cat's scratching at the door as well. Not a minute's peace.
Oh, I can't get any fucking peace.
I love that.
So yeah, what happens? Cynthia goes back
by
to
the time she's got a nightie on, bit
Yeah.
of rapping on the chamber window.
Yes.
Only a gurning ghoulie man.
Ghoulie man.
Yeah.
Ghoulie man.
Yeah.
It's only a good man.
Gives her a right old start, but she thinks best not to mention it, and then the zombie also doesn't really follow up on it and just goes and collapses on the steps of the what is it? Is it the house mother? Is that a middle-aged lady that lives in the sorority house with all the teenagers?
Yeah, sure. Her house is behind the sorority house, though, I believe.
Yeah.
It's like that cottage.
The house
Yeah,
mother's
you're right.
cottage, they call it, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
you're right about him not doing much. It's like it took all of his energy to walk up the fire escape stairs to reach your window, and then that was it.
Damn, gone.
Just wanted to give her a scare. So when he collapses, his head like splits open, doesn't it, and releases loads of the slugs.
I tell you, they are
fast.
harrowingly fast slugs.
Yeah, I think you could see the Fred pulling them along a few times.
fishing
Yeah,
wire,
you do see that on the Blu-ray.
Yeah.
Still
That's
cool
half
though.
the charm, though. I mean, you want to see it at that point. It just adds to the campiness. If they digitally removed it, I would feel not happy about that. It's like an Evil Dead 2. If they wanted to, they could digitally remove that wire where the eyeball's flying through the air. Well, what's the point? It's part of the charm of the movies. Just leave it there. It works.
So then Detective Cameron gets called to the scene, finds the body. And do they interpret the like split head as like an axe wound? Do they say that? They say like, I think someone's axed him to death. I think they consider it to be.
Yes,
murder.
because that's when he starts thinking that it's the killer from way back when. He starts getting paranoid.
Absolutely.
Again, that's just a really odd coincidence to have in the narrative, isn't it? Where it looks like an axe wound, but completely unrelated. But that storyline is going to come back later on down the line.
Yeah.
So
and I guess
it's
shows
a bit strange.
It shows his paranoia. It shows his mindset going into this as well. That he still hasn't come to terms with so many things himself. That it's all sort of constantly there in no matter. I guess it probably has been for years. And whatever crime he was looking at, that was always present. And now this crazy scenario is how he eventually manages to confront those thoughts and feelings.
To be fair to Tom Atkins and his understanding of forensics, I'm not a forensic scientist, but we don't
never
know
claimed to be.
I never have claimed to be a forensic scientist, but we don't know that an axe going into the face doesn't give the same impression of slugs coming out of it. Could that just be exactly the way it happens?
Could very well be.
Isn't that the first thing they teach you at forensic school?
Second.
It was the 80s. It was a different time, guys. The 80s were a different type of teaching.
Yeah.
So could do that. Head opens up. Yeah.
We were in a pre-CSI world. No one else, not everyone was thinking, Gil Grissom, that's me, I know it all. Like people were just, you take things at face value back then.
That's right.
Axe face value.
Face value. So Chris and JC go back to their dorm and we're introduced to that. I like the little space they've got going on. Little back-to-back study in space. It's nice.
This is where they have like a little bit of depth with the characters in it, because at first he's like, fucking hell, I'm so pissed off that you made me steal a body, and said, oh, we shouldn't have pushed it out the wrong way. And then we just get great classic male friends having an argument, right? Where something balls away, one tells the other one to fuck off, and then 2 minutes later, they're all friends again.
No, 2 minutes later, they have a pillow fight.
Yeah.
It's like, okay.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. That's what happens, all right? That's what happens.
And now all's forgiven.
80s bromance. 80s bromance, gentlemen. That's how it worked.
Just looking on the cast list here, it looks like Shane Black plays a cop in this as well.
Well,
really?
That makes sense, because don't forget, Shane Black and Fred Dekker, they worked together to write the Monster Squad.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
They're buds. And of course, unfortunately, the two of them reunited to make, dare I say, The Predator from 2018.
Oh my goodness.
Which was one of my worst cinematic experiences in quite some time. What happened to Shane Black? Terrible.
Yeah, that was a huge disappointment, definitely. Okay, so what's the next sequence?
So I forget now. Like, do they get caught and questioned by Tom Atkins because they turn themselves in, or does Rotten Grass as well as Bad Bloke Brad like dob them in?
The janitor
The
janitor
janitor.
witnessed them.
Okay, fine.
He
I
identified
take it
them
back. I will.
because
I
he saw
formally
them
retract. Sorry, Brad. You're a bad bloke in a lot of ways, but you're not
No,
a grass.
you've done a lot of bad
Yeah.
things, right? You've knocked a disabled guy over, not to kicked his crutch out from under him, but you're not a grass, okay? That's the worst.
But yeah,
of the worst.
but the janitor who saw them running away like banshees. I won't do it in his voice; it was problematic enough. But he
screaming like banshees. So they confess to the break-in, don't they? To Tom Atkins, they confess
immediately.
To it, but they deny moving the corpse. They essentially tell the truth, which is
we ran away.
commendable. All right, lads, we ran away.
Yeah.
Grabbed me, I ran away. Yeah, and then after that, we see, I think it's that night, we see that dead medical student who was murdered. He
sits up at the morgue.
This is basically, if you work in a morgue, never turn your back to the old slab. All right, never turn your back. And is it also, there's a cop as well. There's always eating like at crime scenes. Have you noticed this guy?
It was the 80s, man. I just presume that's what they did.
Yeah.
Cops always ate.
So it is hungry work being a policeman. You've got no career prospects, so you might as well snack.
To be fair, when are you going to get a chance to eat as a cop, to be fair, if you're in a horror film?
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
You need them calories.
You can't get them calories
On your feet all day.
Exactly.
So yeah, this guy, right, the medical student gets up from the slab, kills the mortuary assistant, or what is he, just the mortician? Sorry to downgrade you to assistant, mate. Didn't mean to do that. Apologies. Yeah. And then when he walks past the cop, this is good because obviously the cop isn't really paying attention and just says, "See you tomorrow."
Yeah. And then does he get the janitor as well?
I think he gets the janitor, doesn't he?
Yeah. Gets his comeuppance for being a grass.
Yeah.
He might be a grass, but he's a lovely man, you know. He's having a good laugh about it. He was like, "I'm just reporting
the message
crime
behind Night of the Creeps: don't be a grass."
Yeah.
Don't be a grass, no matter what the scenario.
Yeah. But you know, I tell you what, in many ways he did inform the police on them, but he's got so much pleasure out of seeing those two guys run out screaming like banshees. He's laughing about it a good day and a half later.
Yeah. It's the gift that keeps on giving.
They made him so happy. If that's the price he's got to pay for happiness for at least 2 days, then
to be fair, his life is probably peaked. He isn't coming back he's not coming back as a ghost because he has no unfinished business. He's experienced it all.
No, he's done. He's done. That was it. He was checking out the door. Like, he had the time of his life, man. Screaming like banshees.
Yeah.
They were probably saying
I'm envious of people like that, boys. You know, sometimes it's the little things in life that can make it all brighter. And if that's how he wanted to go out, he went out with a smile and a laugh. So God bless.
Yeah, exactly. Name one person in a horror movie who had just as much fun throughout the film as that guy did.
Oh, I got it. It's Ted from Friday the 13th, Part 2, because he proved that being an alcoholic at a bar means Jason can't kill you, because Ted refuses to go back to Crystal Lake that night.
Yeah.
He stays at the bar. He's looking for after-hour parties. And speaking of which, could you imagine how that would have played out the next morning? Ted wakes up at some random house, maybe the waitress's house. He's hungover, goes back to Crystal Lake, sees all the cops. They're like, what happened?
Jesus.
All your friends are dead. Everybody's dead. And he's just kind of like, thank God I'm an alcoholic and decided to stay at the bar last night. Like,
wow, man. Just like the guy on the Titanic.
Yes.
It's exactly it.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So yeah, apart from him, or maybe some of the Gremlins have a good time in their film. They're very jolly.
I wasn't counting Gremlins. That's not fair.
They find everything fun.
Fair.
True.
But yeah, this guy is number one though.
So next up, Cynthia attempts to convince Chris and JC that the attacks are zombie related because she saw a zombie. But they're obviously classic skeptical. So yeah, and then that is when they're kind of like walking around at night, and then JC's like, I gotta go to the toilet, but Chris kind of thinks he's leaving them alone to have some time alone, isn't it? JC had no intention of that. He's gonna go drop a deuce and then come back. All right, guys. Sorry. Bloody hell, struggle with that.
Best laid plans, unfortunately.
So yeah, when he goes to the toilet, he is basically attacked by the
Sorry,
possessed-
delayed reaction there. Sorry.
possessed-
It's a combination of fatigue and just I just clocked what he meant. Sorry.
So it works.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Please
what happens
continue.
is the janitor attacks JC, and this, was a little bit sad. I didn't expect JC to go out the way he did, and especially at this point of the movie as well. I thought he was going to escape. But
How far into the film does JC get got? Because it didn't feel like he was in the film a whole lot.
I want to say just over halfway, about 50 minutes into the 45, 50 minutes. I wanna say.
It's about the halfway
too
mark.
early. That's way too early for JC to go, I think. I
Yeah.
think
He
he
was
had
the
more to
Janet
give.
Leigh of this movie, Aaron. It's just how it was,
Yeah.
You weren't expecting it. Or I haven't been that saddened by a death in a horror movie since they killed Randy in Scream 2 halfway through the fucking movie.
yeah.
Yeah,
Which
that
to
was
me
upsetting.
is Wes Craven's biggest regret in that franchise. If I
Yeah,
only
no,
would have
agreed.
known people loved Randy. I'm like, I fucking loved Randy,
Loves
Wes.
Randy.
Why'd you kill him off so
Try
quick?
and bring Randy's family members into the latest one as well, didn't they?
Yeah, it's like
Right?
his
nephew,
nephew
niece?
and niece.
Yeah, and his sister as their mom, yeah.
Not really the same though. Although I did love his return in Scream 3. That was nice. That
Yeah,
was
that
Yeah,
was
the
good.
video.
Oh yeah, that was great. Yeah, that was good.
Of course,
Yeah.
fucking
Really good way of doing
videotape.
it.
Yes, got him.
Had to be.
With
Got a point here
JC
though.
So go,
yeah,
go.
sorry, I was just gonna say I got a point here because I do remember he gets slugged, as we're calling it now,
Mhm.
but then he manages to leave a tape on his desk later
Yeah.
on in a later. Does he? I'm confused as to how he does that. Does he?
Well,
'Cause he
maybe
says he's down
had
in
the
the-
tape recorder on him. Maybe he's a guy that just had one of those handy portal things. And obviously, it gives us indication that if you get slugged, you have 5 minutes before you go full zombie. Or I don't know.
Yeah, he
So-
rattles off like a pretty long speech, and there's that really lovely bit, and everybody goes, "I love you, man," and it's like, oh,
I like
That
it
gets
because
you in the
the
feels and-
effect you can kind of like hear him kind of turning in a way. I
yeah,
just
he
kinda-
doesn't
I
sound
kinda-
like him.
No, it kind of
No,
sounds a bit,
Sounds
it's like
quite,
bit
he does
wobbly.
mention it's inside me, doesn't it? He goes,
Yeah,
I can
it's
feel
in
it
my brain.
I can
Yeah.
feel it
Yeah.
in his brain.
It's
Yeah,
just-
and you have
it's-
a plot context sensitive amount of time before you turn, as the bookish friend proves later on. But you have you've got a relevant amount of time that you can record a
It's
tape
kinda
in
weird.
JC's case.
It was kind of weird though, because it's like he's gone from not believing there's these alien slugs to suddenly being infected by one and having the presence of mind to leave a tape to tell Chris, this is.
And he's
what's
done a
up.
bit
he
of research
planned
as
that
well.
shit.
He goes, yeah, they don't like the heat, but it doesn't get him out. Because he
know.
knows that, because when they get him, he is. I guess he's taken some matches in to burn off fart gas while he's in the public toilet. Very considerate. But when he puts a match towards one of the slugs,
It
tell you what, they
Explodes.
got like a pair of shell suit trousers. They literally flash fire.
I
Yeah.
kind of just thought in terms of the way this film was playing out, maybe he should have survived the first encounter, then like realized that these slugs are real, maybe got involved in fighting them for a while, and then
Would have been
died
so
and left
much
the
better
tape.
because he kind of gets killed off screen almost. I know we see it go.
Yeah.
We don't even see that, but then we turn up later and it's just the back of his head with some sludge, and you think, he was
so-
such
Yeah,
a
it-
cool dude. He was our favorite, and that's
That
the
was
death
probably
we
the
get.
darkest moment in this movie. It actually felt
Mhm.
real there for a second, like because you're right. You're just seeing the back of his head laying in the stall there, and it was just like
Yeah,
didn't
And the
seem to
slugs,
fit with the
yeah.
rest of the movie.
And
no, not at all.
genuine in the build up to JC being got. I was watching this with my wife, and I genuinely turned to her and said, like, are they going to do a turnaround here? And is the story going to be about JC as the lead character? Because he's the one that had the confidence to go up and actually speak to someone, like to speak to the love interest in the beginning. Is there going to be a subplot about their friendship and saying, oh hey, I'm actually the main guy, I don't have to be the I feel if this film was being remade, that is exactly the narrative you'd probably push into it now.
Absolutely.
But now,
I'll
but
give
then
it time. Disney will remake this, I'm sure.
yeah. and then he's just gone. And you're right. He's out of the film without really a death scene. You just encounter his body, and you don't even really see his face. Dead faces. Are
No,
expensive.
that's yeah. You're right, Kevin. It is quite
Well, I
disturbing when
mean,
you see that.
if you think about it, his whole point was to build up the confidence of his best pal in life to, become the man he know he could be. So his final, I guess, maneuver to build up his best buddy's confidence was to, die early and leave that, inspirational message, because he was just more or less used as a plot point to have our redheaded fine lead show up at Tom Atkins' house, and something's got to be done. That was the final drawing point to make him a man's man, if you will.
And he turns up just in time to stop Tom Atkins gassing himself.
Yeah, was he going to gas himself, or was he going to blow up the oven? I can't remember. Was he turning?
He has all of the gas on,
right?
But he's got an open plan house. It's gonna take him all night.
He has time. He could drink. So I'm pretty sure he had like a lighter, But no.
Yeah, because he's sort of flicking it on, and you think, oh, he's gonna top himself. But
yeah, I thought.
How many other people is he going to take with him though?
I thought it was going to be a head in the oven. Except didn't want to. Yeah, it strikes me
unfair, isn't it? Taking you all down with me.
Because he's clearly living in a flat, so he's going to take out like family living above, family living below. It's like the most selfish thing he could do. It's like
the entire block. Yeah, well, I did do a murder that time, but I did kill an axe murderer because he chopped my girlfriend up.
Sort of balances it out a little bit.
Yeah. But he didn't kill him at the moment. Like coming back here, because he admits at this point, doesn't he, to our leader that I did kill the axe murderer, but it gives the impression that it wasn't at this scene where we see him in the flashback in the nightmare, where you see him approaching the car and she is being chopped up by the axe murderer. He gives the impression that he hunted him down later.
Yeah, he went full Charles Bronson on that. I mean, obviously it was against police procedure to, shoot him. I mean, he could have taken him in custody, but he did the right thing, of course. But it's weird how he kind of covered up the act. Like, so the axe murderer, he kills him and he buries him, in behind the sorority house. Did anybody else in that police force, the 50s, go, hey, where's the axe murderer? What happened to him? I don't know.
Oh, it's happening on the TV in the background right now as you're talking as well. It's strange.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. We can actually see it now.
We can just watch it.
So, so are we curious if he kills him right here? Well, I don't know. He's got the shotgun out here, boys.
See, I don't know if this is this a product of the nightmare he's having. He's gone full maniac.
Oh, this is the nightmare. Yeah.
Yeah.
So is that just a recreation of it? But he mentions when he's actually talking about it, that he hunted him down later. So maybe he got him and killed. Because in that situation, you'd imagine if you're seeing an axe murderer literally chop someone to death and you're a policeman, you could probably explain that, I shot this guy. He was chopping someone with an axe. But I'm guessing they must have chopped him when he must have shot him when he was, on the toilet, in bed.
On the toilet.
So, but still, the toilet. I still don't understand why he buried him where he buried him. Maybe I'm overthinking this.
That never really made any sense.
That's true.
There was a good line here, obviously, when he's telling Chris, and Chris is like, is there a point to this story? You just admitting that you killed someone to me? What are you doing?
Well, I was going to guess myself.
That was
I
a good observation as well.
What's it got to do with the current scenario we're in? He's like, nothing yet. But eventually, possibly. He buries him in this lot, which eventually becomes the sorority house mother's cottage. They build it on there, so that's obviously where it connects to this, which is interesting. I guess it's just like a creepy coincidence, because initially I was a bit like, huh, what? How's this related in a way? And then I realized, obviously, the slugs went under, get to the body of the axe murderer, reanimate him. And
he's up
and he's back.
He's up and he's back, knocking about. Who does he kill? He kills the house mother, didn't he?
House mother, dog.
You also get that bit on the TV that she's watching, and it's Plan 9 from outer space.
Yes.
Which in a way is kind of like a self-referencing in a way, isn't it? It's it knows exactly what this film is meant to be, what it's doing. Combining the macabre with aliens and things like that. So it knows it's not taking itself too seriously, but when it references Ed Wood, and I can probably think of a few movies that have actually had someone watching Ed Wood on TV or whatever, or Plan 9, and I just think it's a nice little nod that that's happening as well. In that scene when he's digging his way or chopping his way upwards. I don't know how you would do that, but he does it.
I'm just surprised Tom Atkins buried him with the axe in his hand still.
Yeah, that's a strange. I just thought of that one. Yeah,
just in case, who knows what's going to happen.
I'll give this axe murderer, who I very rightly hate, like a traditional Egyptian burial. I'll bury him with all the things you'll need for the afterlife.
Wow.
Give him his axe, but he chops himself out. I guess has the cat also been got at this by now?
I think so. Wait.
Must have, yeah.
Good question.
Because the next time we do see the cat, it's all.
It's got a skanky old face, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Skanky old face. So pretty much, to end the conversation with Detective Cameron and Chris, he gets a call basically saying, "The bloody axe murderer's back and on the loose."
Is the guy pissed? Bloody axe murderer's back.
Bloody axe murderer's back.
Luckily,
I've got a shotgun ready. Luckily, I've got a shotgun ready to go, mate. I've got a shotgun ready to go.
So they nip downtown and they very quickly corner him and have a go at shooting him.
I love that when they're shooting him and the light comes through the holes. That's weird. Strange choice there.
Having seen Slither before this, and the scene that is, I would imagine now, a direct homage from that one, where they encounter one of the infected people with a bunch of policemen, I was expecting a lot of the policemen to get got by slugs in this encounter.
They weren't interested in the cops. They just fucking went all by them, basically, right?
Because remember, cops suck. Remember, we know this from the beginning of the film.
No, slugs want that job.
Even slugs want. Come on, I'll take someone that's got career aspirations.
Yeah, I'm going after one of the boyfriends.
College kids. Yeah.
I love that line as well. That he's like, "I killed you once before," and is that what he says?
Yeah, I killed you once before.
Don't admit it, Tom. Come on.
Oh yeah, shit. Yeah, he's just like
all the police around as well. You what?
Right there, like. But yeah, he's like, "I killed you once before," and I was like, "Oh man, that's such a John Saxon Elm Street 3 line." That's what it's. I don't know which one came first, one of those films, but it's just like, "I killed you once before," and he's there with a shotgun again. I love that. There's little moments peppered throughout the film where you're just like, "Yep, nugget. That's a nugget. This one was a nugget for me."
Yeah,
killed you once before.
So the next night is when there's like the formal dance. Essentially, that's when Chris finds the message from JC, and obviously ends up finding him.
That's a strange one as well. Just to point out is that this takes place over 3 nights and not 1 night. Yeah, I don't know if it's because I've seen a lot of horror films. Sort of, it sort of happens in 1 night, whereas this sort of. All this terrible shit's happened. Then the next day, I've got my prom suit. Everything's fine.
Yeah, mate, go back to normal.
Whatever.
I think he does say, JC's missing, doesn't he? Didn't come back last night. He said, going to the toilet, and then maybe he's got into some trouble. It happens to the best of us.
Yeah, and he just happens to be getting ready in his prom suit, and then happens to see the tape recorder because he didn't see it before. Like
he was really looking forward to this date, though. Blinkers on. Yeah,
probably.
And this is the love of it. This is the love of his life, as we've established. He's broken up with horrible old Brad, so he's got to capitalize on this. So I'll worry about my missing friend later. And to be fair,
that's why he busted for the blue suit, I believe, that fabulous tuxedo he's wearing.
Powder blue. Powder blue drug lord.
Beautiful selection. But yeah, we now enter, I guess, the titular Night of the Creeps.
That's probably what he was thinking about, how dapper the suit was, and then just sort of look around, tape recorder. Yeah.
I want to record my feelings on this one. What if you just taped over it?
I'm just going to talk about note
to self: learn how to do one of these dicky bows.
That's it. Or talk about marriage. What we're planning kids' names and shit. Taping over his mate's last fucking testament, whatever.
It's fortunate that not only did JC record it, but he rewound it. So it could just be played.
Yeah, that's what I thought of as well.
Oh yeah,
Be kind, rewind. That's it. Oh,
What a
even when
guy.
you're dying, you got no excuse now. If you got a video shop, JC was kind and he rewound, man.
But did he rewind, boys? Because I remember how that technology worked. What if he hit record, was talking, then died? Well, when the tape's done recording, when it runs out, it stops and automatically rewinds anyways.
Oh, okay.
Oh, he
That
wasn't so
changes
kind.
everything.
Just like a
That changes
VCR.
everything.
Yeah.
So this is JC the true hero or as careless, as flawed as anyone else? We'll
He
never
probably
know.
deserved to die. No, he didn't rewind purposefully, man. Just saying. Should have rewound, man.
He deserved it.
I mean,
So I just thought of the back of his head and I was like, nowhere and don't. It was quite sad.
okay. How was he to know that rewinding a videotape and the chemicals released in your brain by being considerate wasn't poison to the slugs?
That's it, man. That's it.
Could have saved him. Could have saved him yet.
So Chris essentially teams up with Detective Cameron. And it says here he's in the midst of a suicide attempt. What was he doing at this point?
He was gassing himself like
oven.
Richard. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sylvia platting himself.
Yeah, he was going to stick his head in the oven, I believe, and blow it up.
Oh, yeah. You already mentioned that.
But they're ganged up now and they're on the way to save the day. Unfortunately, the cat's been got. And it goes into the bookish friend. At the time, I imagine she's infected and is hiding it, but again, a bit like the ghoulie man at the window, she gets spooked by the cat and then would appear to let it go and just get on with her life for a bit until it becomes plot relevant. But everyone else, the Venga bus has come and they're on the way to prom.
Oh yeah,
but they didn't. The one thing they didn't. While they're out on their, they're in the back of the bus, like chanting "lads, lads, lads" on the way to the formal dance. They did not anticipate a scabby dog to be standing in the road.
Scabby dog. You've got to anticipate these things, man. You've got to anticipate these things. You never know.
You don't know tonight at the Creeps, though. You probably would flip the bus if a gammy collie is standing its ground and the thing. You're going to flip that bus. Unfortunately, it doesn't catch fire, but it's just enough for all the slugs to go in. And, and get all the lads. And Brad, having been dumped, is just.
I think you knew at this point that they were going to be fodder, for the finale of the film as well when they all got infected. I think that was kind of obvious.
Yeah. And if you were curious, but if you remember how half of those gentlemen on the bus looked, speaking of looking older than they were probably meant to be, half of those extras, they were actually the special effects crew for the movie. They just cast like the guys that were building the props. They especially anybody with a mustache, they were definitely on the effects crew.
That mustache guy, he looks like a design technology teacher. Like he knew.
All right, lad.
Yeah. What are you studying here at college? Yeah, I'm on the foreman's course. Yeah, he's literally serious engineer.
The bus driver as well. He's just like, for God's sake, of all the nights for me to work, what is going on here?
No, you got that taxi. He got that taxi booking. It was like, all right, taxi for 12. Need the minibus for that.
Thank God there's no gammy dogs on the road.
His boss was on the radio beforehand. Jeff, you're overdue for the gammy dog training. I'll take it on Monday, Derek. Like it's not going to come up. And then on that night, this happens when you procrastinate.
Gammy dog night.
Yeah.
So what convinces Chris to take on the Creeps? Because obviously when he goes and hooks up with Detective Cameron, he's like, well, let's go to the armory.
The catalyst is JC's death, isn't it? That's when he's JC, sorry, yeah. He's because he suddenly flips and he's quite emotional, he's quite upset, isn't he, at this point? So it's that, what do they call it in Save the Cat moment? It's it's a Save the Cat moment, I suppose, isn't it? Or no, it's a push, they call it in script writing terms, or a bump. I think they call it a bump. And I think that's what he needed to sort of shake him up, gain his confidence, and try and stop whatever this was. He sort of put the date to one side, and he's becoming a man.
Stop thinking about the formal dance in your powder blue suit, and start thinking about flamethrowers.
Well, those things are threatening that thing that you want most in the world. And you've only known about these slugs for 24 hours. Sick of them already. Absolutely, you need to nip this in the bud before there are more knocking about. And of course, you mentioned the flamethrower, Ben. Perfect excuse to meet horror icon Dick Miller himself.
Dick Miller.
Dick Miller as the cop at the armory. Yeah, and this is great. I've just got a flamethrower knocking about. That's all right. I mean, who knows what we did it for?
Dick Miller.
He's always selling weapons. He's the same thing in Terminator as well. You want pump or auto? It's like
he's the working man of horror and action movies for multiple generations. I personally love him as put upon cleaner in Shopping Mall.
Ah, yes.
He's also in is he in The Howling as well? He is.
Yes, he is. He's actually in every Joe Dante movie made. Joe Dante used him in almost every. Well, if you think Howling, Gremlins, Gremlins 2, The Burbs, Explorers, Matinee. Maybe not Dante's Last, but yeah, he always used Dick Miller in his movies. They had because remember Dick Miller got to start Roger Corman films, and so did Dante. So yeah.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah, he had a hell of a career. There's a great documentary called "It's That Guy." It's that guy, Dick Miller. If you get a chance to watch it, check it out. They made it a couple of years before he passed on, but really, really, really cool stuff.
That sounds great. And he's such a reliable, but that description from the documentary title is perfect, because I think for years as a kid, when you know people's names as actors, like you would always recognize him and all these things. A very comforting appearance when you see Dick Miller turn up in these things. You're in for a good time.
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely.
I agree. So yeah, when they go to the sorority house, before they arrive, Cynthia breaks up with Brad, who has been slugged. And because he's such a vapid, blonde, dead-eyed loser.
Don't notice.
Sorry, Brad.
She doesn't even notice nothing.
She doesn't notice anything. So yeah, she kind of thinks he's there to kind of like, because they already had a phone call where I think she said she didn't want to be around him anymore, and it seems she thinks he's come there to kind of rectify this, but no, she just tries to officially break up with him. But yeah, has become possessed, and that is when Detective Cameron and Chris show up, don't they?
And in many ways, talking about standing up to the bully, I mean, Marty McFly became, not Marty McFly, his dad McFly became generations popular for standing up to Biff and just giving him a punch. But here, shoot him in the head and then burn him up. That's more that's more than double a punch. I
love that they automatically establish that shooting them and then burning them is what they need to do. I love that. It's barely even discussed. It's not. It's just like, oh right, oh what's that? Yeah, okay, well we got it.
It's not burn and then shoot them. That'd be the dumb way.
Combo.
Actually, one of my favorite shots right before that, though, is when she's breaking up with him and he's just sitting there. The slugs are just shooting out of his mouth.
Yes,
and it's like, there's something about how they did that shot. It just cracks me up. It's really cool. She just doesn't notice at all. Like, not much to say.
So to be honest, she should have got right then and there. I think she should definitely have been slugged. But
yeah.
I guess because she didn't see, she wasn't surprised that she wouldn't have to go and open your mouth in a gasp to swallow slugs. If you're unsurprisable, they can't get you.
Unsurprisable.
So if you're like Tom Atkins and he's seen it all, he just does like almost a Judge Dredd tight-lipped.
Everything, mate.
Mind you, that is a film I would see. Tom Atkins as Judge Dredd.
Tom Atkins as Judge, going around in the cursed earth, just rocking out in the desert. Tom Atkins as Dredd.
I need that VHS artwork now. That Tom Atkins Dredd poster. If anyone's watching, please send it through because I want to see this.
It can be made.
It can be made. So yeah, Cynthia and Chris then obviously thrill us. Please do it.
Because I'm the law is what he'd finished.
So then, all of those fraternity brothers who were in the bus show up, infected, lots of mustaches, lovely.
And your dates are here, but the bad news is all dead. So
50.
Yeah.
I love this because obviously
Good
Chris-
news is your dates are here. Bad news is it is in no way age appropriate.
Yeah.
so Cynthia
Bad
and Chris
news is
team,
they're your
team up.
dads.
Oh my God. Jesus.
Read into that whatever you want.
So Cynthia and Chris team up like at the front of the sorority house, shotgunning and flamethrowing the zombies. Detective Cameron goes inside the house to clear anybody in there, including obviously the bookish young lady who's turned
Turns into a zombie at a plot relevant moment because she's fine for a bit. She hasn't got the peace of mind to make a cassette.
Yeah,
No.
So all the zombies get in the house as well. And there's a weird moment where Cynthia and Chris just go into like a little woodshed.
Into the bike store.
yeah. This will be all right. It'll be fine in here. Don't worry about it. Fuck it out. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great moment.
But we get a brain.
I hate that when
brain
there's
dead.
that shot from above where they're sort of going in there, and like they're so close. I don't know why one of them just doesn't grab them. It's almost frustrating that they don't get got at that moment, and it's sort of like there's almost something British about it, like when you're trying to sneak onto the tube or subway, and you're sort of like, oh, sorry. It's almost like a cue. It's like he's right fucking there. Grab him, like but he doesn't. He doesn't get got, which is weird.
But that's kind of something from like classic zombie movies as well, even like Night of the Living Dead, where you think surely they're going to be got, but they're so shambling, so slow that they can't like make that final moment. You can kind of like edge between them almost, and that kind of comes across in this as well.
It's like those, especially I guess, is what those zombies do. Isn't bite you or eat you or even give you a thumping. They want to get near you so they can gob slugs out. Maybe it's like a dog chasing the car. They don't know what they're actively going to do if they catch you. They just
it seems like when a victim is in the vicinity that they just die. Well, the body that they're in, the body dies and they come out and go for you.
Maybe like they need to get them to open their mouths so slugs can go in. So what they're trying to get to do is get close enough to them so they can whisper something shocking so they'll gasp. Tell them what energy price cap's going up. And then got him.
Or you hear Kevin's pitch for Halloween Ends.
Oh, they would
all of a sudden you probably get 20 in there, I think. Jesus.
Should have put a content warning on that. If there are any slugs around when people are listening, Ben, if you put a content warning on at the beginning.
Yeah.
If you're anywhere near,
the slugs are going to be watching this going, oh shit, that's a really good point, man. Tell them the Halloween Ends thing.
Okay, so after like the house gets cleared, essentially, some more slugs are like going towards the basement.
They remember Chekhov's brains. So what's in the basement? Oh, a couple of old newspapers. Oh, loads of brains, jars of brains.
So a jar of brains knocking about. Yeah, then when they go down there, Detective Cameron has essentially got them all. There's an enormous pile of horrible slugs. He's got some tape across his mouth. He knows what he's doing. Very smart. And he's prepping a can of gasoline. And they do a little countdown, which is nice. I feel like under pressure, though, you'd get it like dangerously wrong, wouldn't you? Count too fast.
I'm not going to be nitpicky here, but they're clearly not happening in seconds because there's like loads of delays in between it's like 5.
Yeah.
Aaron, again, it was the 80s, right? Time moved differently in the mid 80s.
Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot Tom Atkins could bend time as well.
That's right.
Time Atkins.
Now you see,
Tom Atkins, yeah.
Time listens to Atkins' voice. Time's not allowed to move ahead until Atkins says 5. Hold on, time.
That's it. It's like Inception. Like with every Tom Atkins second, it could be slow, it could be fast for the audience. Yeah, I'm on board with that.
Tom Atkins to decide these things.
Thanks for clearing that up, man.
Your perception of time is altered by the strength of gravity, and if there's something that Tom Atkins has, it's gravity. Come on.
Tom Atkins was just absolutely convinced he was going to get an explosion in this film. He was just like, well, maybe I'll just do it at the end. Maybe I'll do it earlier. He just wanted it.
It's kind of, he'd already committed himself. So fuck it. I'm going to blow something up.
Yeah. I've already got the thought in my head, I don't want to ruin it. They blow up the house. So he flicks his lighter, house goes up in a big explosion, and then a classic, I guess, well, it's not the exact ending, but a classic ending moment of Chris and Cynthia sharing a lovely kiss. As
I
they
mean,
watch
yeah,
the
that's a
house
bit
burn
weird,
and they think
isn't
of
it?
everyone who's died.
If there's anything to put
Yeah.
you in the mood for a kiss, it's the smell of burned human flesh and
Yeah,
a garden full of
burnt
bodies of people that
Atkins.
you know.
Yeah. I mean,
It's not really
forget about the years of therapy and what you just witnessed that night. Never really think about that in most horror movies. There's always the kiss between the two left, and it's like, but wait, didn't you just see like half a dozen of
Yeah.
your friends butchered tonight by a madman? I mean, I don't know.
That's why they don't do it in the thing. That's why they don't
That's
kiss at the
right.
end of the thing.
Yeah,
Well, not in the cut you've seen, but
That's a good point.
that's
That's
true.
okay.
There are. This is where it gets. There's two endings, of course. And we got.
One
we got
involving
this
slugs.
point. Which
We've got-
when you watched it last night, which ending did you go with? What happens next?
Oh,
So
so
the
the
ending-
version. Oh, go on, Ben. You go.
the ending I saw was where you see like a zombified and charred Detective Cameron appearing, smoking a cigarette. He stops, falls to the ground, all the slugs come out of his head, and they all go to a cemetery. And then when they're in the cemetery, we also see the aliens appear with a searchlight.
Aliens got the torch down. So
Get a torch
any
down,
slugs down here.
attended to retrieve their experiment. Who knows what carnage they have
Wait.
caused.
That was my ending. You're telling me there's another ending to this film?
Okay, so
Oh, go
what
on.
you guys saw was the director's cut ending. That was not the theatrical ending. The theatrical ending, you see Cynthia and Chris kiss, and the police are around. They're roping shit off, and then the dog comes walking up to them and looks up, and they look down, and the slug shoots out of the dog's mouth, and that's how it ends.
Oh, so you don't see who gets got.
Scabby
No,
dog.
they cut the whole Tom Atkins bit out. So I believe that was the theater ending. That was the VHS ending. And it was only on when it hit DVD and Blu-ray that we finally got to see the Tom Atkins ending, which was the one he wanted, but they went with the theater. The jump scare with the dog at the end instead. But yeah,
Fair enough.
Scabby
Yeah.
Dog's Revenge. The final move.
I like the Tom Atkins ending better.
Yes.
Yeah, from what I
Yeah.
remember seeing, it was quite nice going back to the graveyard and the spaceship again.
The
It
spaceship,
screamed
yeah.
Ed Wood at me as well.
Yes.
So that
Yeah.
was a nice way to end it.
It had a really good. It was a nice bookend, I think. The
Yeah.
way this one kind of ended. Okay, so that is that for Night of the Creeps. Before we rate the movie, we do have something called the name game, which I guess we should kind of explain. Andy, do you want to explain? You're usually the master of this.
Yeah, so a game pioneered by our other host, Luke Kondo with a K, is that he'll take the title of the film we have and change it ever so slightly, usually with a rhyming convention, but depending on how hard it is to rhyme the words of the title, maybe we'll make that a little bit stretched on occasion. And one of us will give you a plot of a film that sounds suspiciously like Night of the Creeps with a slight change that, will give you a clue to what this altered name would be.
Yeah, it'll become very clear after like the first one. So,
Okay,
do
thrill me.
you want to? You've been
You
waiting
start,
to say
Aaron.
that. You've been waiting
No.
to say that this whole episode, haven't you?
Shit,
Uh,
sorry.
Do you want to start, Andy?
Tell me what's the classic synopsis, Ben, and I'll riff it from that.
Now you see the synopsis isn't great, so I don't know if you just want to say slugs come down from space. So it says alien brain parasites entering humans from the mouth, turn their host into a zombie. Some teenagers start to fight against them. That's not the best synopsis on IMDb.
Okay,
but-
let's think of one quickly then. So, imperiled by an invasion of alien brain-eating slugs, some teenagers use the strength of four-wheel drive vehicles to save the day.
Night of the Jeeps.
It's not night; they use their strength to do it.
Might of the Jeeps.
Might of the Jeeps, very good.
One
Ben.
of the Jeeps. All right, I see where this is going now. Okay.
You
God
just need
damn
one.
it. I have to wake up.
Have you got one?
God
Have you
damn it.
You got one off the top of the dome, Ben?
Okay. I don't know how to describe this. So, teenagers fight back against brain parasites, which I don't even know how to describe it, which display themselves as an Academy Award an Academy Award winning actress, the one with the most Oscars of all time.
Oh, I got it. Fight of the Streets.
Fight of the Streeps.
Fight of the Meryl Streeps.
Okay,
Yeah,
well, yeah.
Fight of the
Oh,
Streeps.
come on,
You
you
got
can
it.
take that one.
Nailed it.
I'm letting Kev have that. I'm not gonna, not for a second,
Oh,
gonna
dick him on that
deny
one.
him that.
I
No.
just felt if I would have said Meryl Streep, that's too heavy-handed, baby. Come on. you
Yeah,
know?
I
the
prefer.
It's simplistic.
Yeah.
That's keeping him. That's keeping him with the right number of syllables.
Hmm.
You've pulled that one off. Okay, I got one for you then. So a number of local teenagers are placed in peril when they catch a look at an absolute horde of. This one might be in Kev's wheelhouse. Candy kind of marshmallow duck treats, mostly popular in North America.
Oh.
No, I don't know.
Little marshmallow ducks are invading the thing, and if you just get a look at them, you're in big trouble.
Marshmallow ducks.
Marshmallow ducks.
I've only had them once. They're very delicious, but incredibly bad for you. I imagine they come in all
They're
sorts
not
of
ringing
garish
any
colours.
bells for me.
I'm blanking out. I'm not
right.
much of a sweet tooth.
You're gonna have to Google these bad boys, but they're called Peeps. So the film is Sight of the Peeps.
Ah.
Why are the peeps? Okay.
Have a quick Google of Peeps. They look very bad for
I know
you.
what they are. Okay. Alien brain parasites enter sheep through the mouth, and teenagers ask for help of a famous sheep wrangler to fight back against them.
It's got to be something of the sheeps, but who is
But is the famous sheep wrangler? I'm just trying to think.
I don't know if she's a wrangler of sheep, actually. Maybe just a
Okay.
she. I've given you the gender.
Is this a British thing?
I don't think so.
over here? Sheep wranglers are A-list.
A-list sheep wrangler.
The way of a talk about.
Okay, I'm gonna give you a clue. It's a character from Toy Story.
Oh, Peep.
Peep.
Oh,
Peep, Bo Peep of the sheep? Or...
So fight
Just
of
just
the
not-
sheep with Peep.
Just Night of the Bo Peep is what I've got.
Night of the Bo
Peeps.
Peep.
Oh, Night of the Bo Peep. Okay. Yeah.
I do apologize. These aren't the greatest, but
Forgot to
it's
write
not
any
always
this week.
easy. It's not always easy.
I forgot to write any this week, so I'm literally having to dome these. But
Oh wow.
Got any
Okay.
more?
I got one more for
Go for
the
it.
pile here. So teenagers faced with terrible odds get into a big scrap with just piles of decomposing organic matter for the garden.
What?
Fight of the shit? No. What?
Where would you put your scraps and your garden waste to get some lovely mulch?
Oh,
I've never actually done any gardening, but I imagine you'd put them in the compost,
Compost.
or the
Compost
yeah.
bin.
What collection? What units does compost come in?
Jesus, I've never thought.
I never thought I'd be asked that on a horror podcast. what units does compost
It is,
come
of
in?
course, Fight of the Heaps.
Oh, I wouldn't
Wow,
know
that's a
that.
stretch.
Come on.
You get
digging
compost.
deep. Digging deep.
Compost comes in heaps, right? It's not just that my family weren't wealthy enough to have a container.
I rewatched Night of the Creeps. I didn't go and visit the garden centre as well to the plan
Why
for
not?
this. This is insane.
Why not? I don't understand.
Oh, maybe
Okay.
I'm just learning that I wasn't privileged. Maybe everyone else had containers for their compost, and we just had a pile of shit in the garden.
Yeah, I think it's funny you think I have a garden.
Oh, yeah, you live in London. Okay, last one for me. Alien brain parasites enter humans through the mouth. Some teenagers start to fight against them, but it's the version of the film which is shown on TV, terrestrial TV. That might be an English thing, actually. So all of the swears are cut out.
Night of the Bleeps. It's on at
Yeah.
7 o'clock.
Shit. Yeah.
That's
Not the
fucking
bleeps.
brilliant.
That's
That's a good one.
that's how simple they should be. And I'm sorry that I overthought it with the others.
I forgot to write them in advance.
Sometimes we have
Sorry,
to do this
I'm
with like one
still getting
syllable
over the heaps.
movies. The heaps.
Yeah.
Sometimes we have to
No,
do this
the
with one syllable. I think last week's was pretty good, wasn't it, Andy? That's all right. You can't win them all. Okay, so finally, what we have to do is rate the movie from A to F.
Classic schoolyard report rankings.
Yeah, exactly. So I guess, Kev, we should start with you. How do you rate Night of the Creeps?
All right, I'd like to do it in 2 levels. So from a preteen going to the video store in the 80s point of view, give it a strong A, no doubt about it. From maybe a first time seeing it as an adult in your 30s or 40s, way later in life, but looking back in the 80s, I think it comes across as a B plus.
Yeah,
because honestly, I don't know if you thought about it, but and maybe you did, because one of you said about pairing it up with the Monster Squad. I mean, if you would have saw those 2 movies back to back at a sleepover with your buddies when you were like 10 or 9 or 11, I think it would have been a great night of cinema.
What time?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
Totally agree.
Yeah.
What do you think, Aaron?
Well, going in, because it's a different perspective from me, because I saw it only a few years ago. To me, it's definitely one of those films where I feel ashamed of myself for not seeing it sooner. So the fact that I did get to see it, and thank you in such a darkness, I'm definitely going to have to give it a strong B plus, because it does rank up there for me. The music, the constant sort of change of pace at the beginning, from, like you were saying, it was on a spaceship, so it's like a sci-fi with the alien subtitles, and then all of a sudden you're in a 50s movie, and it's not rushed or anything like that. Like, they've put a lot of effort into that 50s sequence, and then you're in the 80s, and then you're in Tom Atkins territory. So for me, they thrilled me. I'm going to say it again. It was a nice surprise to see that film, and I definitely give it a strong B plus. I think it's definitely in my top 10, I think, of favorite horror films. Yeah, definitely.
Awesome. I think I'll join you guys on a B plus. Considering this is the first time I'd seen it, it definitely has to be a film that makes it into my like regular rotation of like awesome B movies, and definitely like Tom Atkins' most iconic role, amazing one-liners, just really fun, and the sort of final act as well. Really enjoyed it. Yeah, B plus. What are you saying, Andy?
I'm going to join you guys. It's going to be a unanimous B plus, I think, for many of the reasons you said. But it's so, even revisiting this more recently and not having, films of the same era that I grew up with are some of my favorite horror movies of all time. You look at things like Joe Dante's Gremlins, you look at that kind of chaos and the comedy and the genuine horror that you come from it as well. It combines all of those things so well. And I am surprised with not just the direct comparison of, Slither and filmmakers like James Gunn, who have clearly been heavily inspired by this, but there's a broader array of things, the tone and the approach that inspires so much that's modern. It is a shock that it isn't more widely known outside just your horror fan audience, that it isn't just a staple Fright Night movie that gets put on a lot more. And the director certainly didn't deserve to end a career on 2 underperformers and then RoboCop 3. For how wonderful this actually is and how enjoyable it is. It's going to go into regular rotation for me. This is a film that you can put on and enjoy, and it's, apart from the crippling sadness of JC's fate, like a delight throughout.
Yeah.
Watch out for those scabby dogs, though, please.
100%.
Scabby dogs, yeah.
So would you say this is Tom Atkins' finest role then, of the Tom Atkins horror movies that you've seen?
It's hard to say. Like, so. I don't know. Season of the Witch is hard to overcome.
Season of the Witch is great, but he gets so much to do in this, and he's just like, it's just so cool. It's just iconic, and obviously the one-liners, but in terms of like his character arc, as I said, like him having to face that axe-wielding murderer again a second time, just so he could kind of like deal with that trauma of it all happening the first time, is kind of probably something that maybe is like underlooked in this film, but I really enjoyed that.
I like the fact that he goes full on Tom Atkins with this as well, because I mean, I know we had, was it Spider-Man No Way Home? I'd like to see a version of that with all the Tom Atkins from all the different universes coming together, and like you got the guy from Creepshow, the dad in Creepshow comes in, you got Season of the Witch, and then you got Night of the Creeps. Just throw them all in there, and they've got a I don't know, take on all the villains that were in each respective film. That would be really cool. That'd be
cool. But if we're thinking of Tom Atkins from The Fog and Halloween 3, we got to make sure there's a woman that's gorgeous, 25 years younger than him. He meets him for 2 minutes, they end up in the shack immediately.
Yeah, immediately.
Because between The Fog and Halloween 3, you know, John Carpenter must love Tom Atkins for writing out of the script. Like, yes, you're going to pick up Jamie Lee Curtis, have like a few chit chats with her, wake up in bed together, just like that.
I tell you what,
and then afterwards he's smoking a cigarette going, that's why God made fathers. That's why God made fathers.
But now here's the real question. Do we prefer Tom Atkins with or without the mustachio?
Mustache
Atkins?
Yeah, mustache every time.
Yeah, mustache,
definitely.
Mustache.
He's naked without it.
Well, I think in The Fog, no mustache, and obviously Creepshow, no mustache. Halloween 3, mustache. Night of the Creeps, mustache. Maybe balance it out pretty good.
I can't see his face without the mustache there now.
I can't imagine him without one. Not at all.
Yeah, I think like if he had one in
a Burt Reynolds movie without him having a mustache in the 70s, like Deliverance. No mustache. Weird.
It was like
if he had a mustache in The Fog, I think it would have upstaged Jamie Lee Curtis, and I don't think that's what they were going for with that film. So
I think you're right. Yeah,
that just wouldn't be fair. Okay, there we go. That was fun.
The mustache.
Thanks Aaron, thanks Kevin. Where can we find more? Where can our listeners find more from you online? I was going to start with you, Aaron.
You can find me at because I'm working on my documentary the Rob Knox Story. We have an Instagram and a Facebook, so we're on all the socials at #RobKnoxFilm. Cult of VHS, we have an Instagram account that's run by our director Rob Knox, so you can follow him on Instagram at the Cult of VHS. And you can also find me on Facebook, just chucking out regular nuggets of cool information and news about Cult of VHS. So come find me. I don't bite, and I love chatting about VHS.
Amazing.
I say that, and literally on the same fucking call, I got Kevin on this. I like talking about VHS, and there's a guy who lives in VHS world.
Yeah. So where can our listeners find more from you then, Kev? Just keep up with.
Well, if you follow on Instagram, you just want to see what the video store is watching on a daily basis, or have any nerdy nuggets. It's Video Store Kev on Instagram. If you're on Facebook and you want to follow the Video Store, just honestly search the Lobby DVD Shop. You'll know you're on the right page. It's nothing but nerd talk. And if you want to check out some of our earlier short films before the feature comes out next year, they're all on YouTube. You could just Google straight to video, a B-movie Odyssey or Tales from the Lobby, and then just go down that rabbit hole. But hopefully next year in 2023, people will notice a new feature film called The Last Video Store, debuting somewhere in the world. Anyways.
Oh, wow.
Damn right. I want to see that at Fright Fest.
Yes. Ideally, we'll all be there at Fright Fest together. We'll get all this travel sorted. You'll be welcomed with open arms onto the program. Get a nice, lovely premiere slot. See you all over there.
Get ourselves dressed up in our tuxes and get on a bus and try to avoid the scabby dogs.
Oh, that's it. We'll get some powder blue suits. Come on,
that's it, man. Kev, you'll have to come back on the show to discuss that film when it's out as well. Your movie.
Absolutely.
That'd be great. So thank you very much for listening. If you enjoyed the show, become a patron over at patreon.com/horror hangout. Thanks to our current patrons: John Crinnan, Ben Scaife, Stephen Christopher, Laura Kendrick, Toby Miller, Ollie Child, Leslie Carlo, Julia Bilgren, Nick Spill, and Pazuzu. Thank you all very much for the continued support. Thanks to Taj Easton for our theme music. Thanks to Acast for hosting the show. Please consider giving us a rating or review and head over to the Facebook group Horror Hangout Board of Advisors for more. We're on Twitter at horror_hangout_, and we're on Instagram at Horror Hangout Podcast. Next week's episode will be a quiz episode, first one of the year.
Holy shit
Versus the Dare Queer podcast hosts Liam and Liam. But yeah, thank you very much again, Aaron and Kevin. This has been great.
Yeah, thanks.
Thanks, guys. I've had heaps of fun.
Heaps. You see, you notice that I've given you a gift, a great word that you can use in your everyday life.
I'm going to be using that word a lot now.
Some would say heaps. Yes.
I've had heaps of fun. Okay. Thanks, everybody. See you later.
See you later, everybody. Bye.
Bye.